first time. We have Tiberius D, very first time, hopefully not the last, counting on everybody to make sure this is a good event for them. And then we have CSP Cypher, Crowdsourced Politics, who's been on and off with us for several things over the last few weeks. This is the Grand Prix debate on the death penalty. We'll go an hour and a half, chat, you know, your jury, you know, you got your questions, get ready to grill when that time comes. The motion is federalizing the death penalty. There's a broader context of why is it that death is the will of the people, and these gentlemen are going to argue this out for you and for us. Those of you who haven't voted, if you are for the death penalty, type 1, against it, type 2. We will poll you afterwards. Meticulous. Okay, keep your comments and questions ready. After rebuttal, we'll have the jury, and then they go to cross-examination, and it's just, you know, beating each other up for the next half hour. So I'm going to let each speaker introduce himself. I assume everyone is a him.
Yes.
All right, I always have to ask. Introduce himself. They will give you their introduction, who they are. They interpret the motion, their talking points, and their official position. So with no further ado, we're going to just do our Star Wars bit that we always play for the chat. And let the blood sports begin. Haha. Give it a few minutes. You can listen to it on stream. Okay. I'm gonna go from my left to my right. Cypher, can you please introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, my name is Cypher, CSP Cypher. I am the host and moderator of the Crowdsourced Politics podcast. Been podcasting for about a year. Came onto Twitch about 6 months ago and been doing a cross between podcasting and Twitch live streams since then. We cover a host of topics ranging from the civil war in Libya all the way to MMT and the impeachment of Donald Trump, part 1. If you want to check us out, you can get us on any of your streaming services. We like Spotify because it propagates the quickest, but you can get us at any of those. And we're generally live on Wednesdays right now at 7 p.m. Eastern to do news roundups. And if you want to get onto the show, just hit me up.
Thank you. And Counterpoints.
Yeah. Do you want me to do just an intro, or do you want me to do the motion or whatever?
If you can go ahead and who you are, it would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah. Then my name's Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. You are all more than welcome to love or hate subscribe to the channel. If you check it out on YouTube, you can literally type in Counterpoints, scroll down. I'll be the second one after ContraPoints. And basically my background is I did 4 years in the United States Marine Corps as a person other than grunt. I did deploy in 2007, 2008, had a relatively mild deployment considering I was in a war zone. And then I got out, got a 4-year degree in business, art, and history because I couldn't pick a degree program. And then I became a law enforcement officer, and I did 3 years on the road, 1 year in the schools, and that's kind of my background. Now I'm a corporate stooge, making a reasonable amount of money, but if I could do anything in the world, it would be argue politics and philosophy with fellow politics and philosophy nerds. So whenever I have an opportunity to do so on the internet, I take advantage of it, which is why I'm here. And if I will be here in the future, especially if we have a whole bunch of fun tonight. So I'm excited.
Can you spell your streaming name again for me so I can get a shout out?
Yeah, actually, I don't stream. I'm just on YouTube, but Counterpoints, common spelling. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, then it's Counterpoints, CONORPOINTS. And
gotcha.
Yeah, follow me on my Twitter, and my YouTube's linked, or follow me on YouTube, and I'm sure I'll mention my Twitter at some point. But those are my main socials.
Got it. I stupidly typed in ContraPoints.
It's okay. All you have to do is scroll.
That's not Counterpoints, by the way. That's definitely not Counterpoints. So sorry.
No, just scroll down a little bit, and with 1/100th the subscribers, that's me.
Oh. It could change. Hey, things are changing. Thank you so much. because this was my special invitation, and Counterpoints was very gracious to accept it, and I'm very pleased. Socrates TV, first
Hello,
time
I
sitting
am.
with us. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm Socrates TV. Very excited to be here. Um, I'm a politics and philosophy and discourse nerd. So I love this kind of thing. Um, I love going on panels and hosting panels. Really more kind of small debates and conversations. I find a lot of the time that works best with 2, 3, or maybe 4 people. So I love small spaces like this where everybody can be heard. Um, and yeah, just excited to do this.
Okay, if we're gonna shout you out, what's the handle?
Oh, it's Socrates TV, and it's tease like tease you with knowledge.
Ooh. Thank you. Tiberius D, who's already kind of famous in a way and has a blanket fortress. Thank you so much for agreeing to come in very late in the game too. You know it's hard to schedule these. I absolutely appreciate it. Okay, so tell us about tell my chat a little bit about you. They may not know you. They should,
Yeah,
but they may not.
sure. I'm Tiberius D. I do a Twitch show and a podcast called Geopolitics Tiberius D. I basically look at the world in certain ways and uh, combining demography, geography, politics, and economics. I put them all together and I kind of give you guys the way that I view the world and what's going on, both here and abroad. I used to be pretty famous for hosting panel shows. I don't really do that anymore. I don't really even jump on money panels. So this is kind of me coming out of retirement. But long story short, here is I'm conservative from Indiana. I've been raised by a
Mhm.
family of farmers, that kind of thing. So this will be interesting. I'm really waiting for Socrates just to hand me my butt. So
Ah, good. Look at the counterpoints is rolling. Can we hear the knuckles crack?
Oh no,
I
no,
see
that's
Wolverine.
it's my lucky watch. I'm taking it off, so you guys are at an advantage.
Good. So if he gets angry and bangs his wrist, we cannot break that lucky watch. Hey, Linky. Thank you all so much. I'm very complimentary, but I'm 100% genuine. As you know, it's very difficult to pull these off, and I have a bit of a mission. Wish me luck. Let's see what happens. We'd like to officially begin. Some of our language is a bit formal. Ignore it. Okay, that's just my Cree heritage. That's how we do things. These debaters have one small challenge. They are going to attempt to debate without using the pronoun you. They're going to attempt. It's alien to them. So everybody encourage them. It's not easy. It's not as easy as you think. Officially, we open the Grand Prix débat. So, tout son. Et laissez les debate begin. So we
Debut.
will have our pros and cons. We normally start with proposition, which is pro, opposition, which is con. Proposition.
Yep.
Can you please make your formal introduction, your 4-point introduction?
Sure. So that'll be me. Let me know if I screw it up. But
You will not screw it up. You can't. Don't fuck it up, Hunty. It's fine. Go ahead.
All right. So kind of the moral question is, why is death the will of the people? And the surrounding context of this is that, at least in an article that I read a few minutes before stream, in 1972, the death penalty was ruled in a limited fashion as cruel and unusual punishment. This was later not reversed, but expanded to basically say that it was narrowly defined specifically for the cases that were brought before the court, and that death itself is not necessarily a cruel and unusual punishment. And then they added the courts added all of these addendums to the death penalty, basically one of them being that you couldn't impose it for felony murder, which I also learned 10 minutes ago is basically when you're an accessory to a crime and then that results in the murder of somebody else. So if you were a getaway driver or if you were a burglar and somebody dies, then you can't have the death penalty applied to you. If you're mentally handicapped, or if you're a juvenile, or if you have mental illness, then you can't have the death penalty applied to you. And it basically took in all these factors that previously were not considered for the death penalty. So they added all of these things in order to make sure that death was not cruel and unusual. So, but that being said, historically, the death penalty has come back in a lot of ways, with a lot of conservative states, a lot of Republican states reinstituting the death penalty themselves. And so the moral question being, why is death the will of the people? I have 4 points. So the first point is death is as natural as life. I know that we put in a lot of emphasis into life, but death is a part of it, and it should be part of our calculus. Second point is life, and human life in particular, has value, but not an infinite value. We can make judgments, moral judgments, about when and where to take lives and to take human lives, and we already do that in a lot of social structures that already exist. We make moral considerations in our society based off of reciprocity, basically meaning I act in a moral manner because I believe that that moral manner will be reciprocated to me. And for people who break that moral calculus, we have to answer the question, what do we do with people who break the moral calculus of reciprocity? And then the final point is, we have to measure total societal impacts on a society with the death penalty versus one without. And it's not just a utilitarian calculus of, people living and dying and all that kind of stuff, but also on a specific moral one. I have an anecdote that comes to mind when I'm talking about a specific moral judgment when it comes to a death penalty case, but I will leave that for the open panel and the open floor so we can get into it then.
Next pro.
Okay, well, Connor's definitely setting a high standard here that I'm probably not going to be able to follow. But
Oh.
as far as the tenet of the motion is that I am largely for. However, personally, under the level of the context that it is versus federalizing versus having the states do it, I could personally go either way. So, as far as the moral situation, as far as why we should kill people, is generally I'm more against it. However, I don't particularly believe in certain absolutes. This is something that I do think that there needs to be an exception for in certain cases. I have very limited cases, but the ethical justification would largely fall into that I am a believer, and I come from a state that is very much the case, Indiana, that you are, as a person, we are not created equal. We don't have the same values. And as a result of that, people can actively devalue themselves into being an absolute harm for society. And people are basically going to want to eat you into the sun if you do this. I think that actually a lot of people are far too liberal with the use of the death penalty, but there is a few exceptions that should absolutely have that reserved out for. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. And Khan, Cypher. Let's start with Cypher and then Socrates.
So the reason, simply put, the reason that the death penalty should not exist within the moral framework is because there have been far too many innocent people that have been put to death by the state. This has been either caused by erroneous understandings of who the perpetrator was, or as nefarious as just blatant racism. In addition to this issue, there is also the issue of whether or not a person is rehabilitatable or not. And if we can, while we get into the debates, we'll probably end up exploring that issue further. But I don't want to take up too much of the time, so I'll concede, or not concede, yield.
Yield. Yeah. So, some of us
All right.
use debate language. You'll hear yield, interjection. You'll hear that. It's fine. You can use it. You don't have to. It's fine. Go ahead. Socrates.
I am Socrates TV, and I'm here to discuss the proposition that we should make the death penalty the default across states, and then states would have to decide to opt out of that. I don't believe that we should do this for multiple reasons, as Cypher mentioned. Sorry, just getting acquainted with everybody. As Cypher mentioned, it's discriminatory, but it's and it's permanent, irreversible. So if somebody is innocent on death row and they're executed, they can't be rehabilitated. Maybe there's some things to balance this out. You would think there might be, but it turns out it doesn't save money. It's actually generally more expensive. It doesn't reduce crime, or it doesn't in any measurable way. It's unpopular, as Tiberius mentioned. It's immoral, and it's cruel and unusual. So that's why I believe that we should not federalize the death penalty.
Thank you all. Okay, go right into rebuttals, meaning it's time for y'all to defend your arguments. We used to handle rebuttals team to team. It's kind of boring that way.
Okay.
We'll open it up and let you all defend your arguments with each other. Try to avoid you. I will call it when it's time for jury.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, just go ahead.
All right, so I was going to ask. So for instance, I have objections to Cipher and Socrates' points. Do I list them all? Do I go after one? What's kind of the format?
What do you normally do?
Yell at people.
Okay. You'll yell at them about why all of those points are scuffed
Okay.
without insulting them personally, because by implication they shouldn't have. Right. Exactly. So
Okay. So
try one at a time.
Okay.
And see what happens.
So Cipher, I'll just begin with you, even though I think there is some overlap, but luckily I think we have like two major points, which is a person rehabilitatable, and the first point being plenty of innocent people have been put to death. So this is something that I probably agree with you on, but as an enlightened centrist, I'm going to give you my my centrist take on innocent people. Okay, so I think that there is an argument to be made, especially in the American judicial system, where we talk about whether or not, like, it's better to let 10 guilty men go free than to put to death like one innocent man. Like, that's the way our judicial system is built. It's the way we think. It's the way we're organized, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But there are some crimes and some people that I don't hold this out for, especially when the evidence is irrefutable. The anecdotal case that I was thinking about, and I have I have another one in my head as a backup, but basically I think it's Anders Breivik, the guy from Norway or Sweden. He was the terrorist who set off a bomb downtown in Oslo. He went to basically their version of the Democrat Party. Because Norway or Sweden, it's one of the Scandinavian countries, so they're all the same to me, which is a little bigoted, but whatever. So they were all there with their flappy heads, and he went out to an island where the Democrat Party, their version of the Democrat Party, was basically having a political retreat, and he pretended to be a police officer. He gathered around a whole bunch of teenage youth who were members of the political party, some of them sons and daughters of politicians. And then he said, "Hey, I have an important security briefing about the Oslo bombing," and they just started killing people. And then he walked around the island, slowly but surely executing every single person that he encountered on that island. And because Norway or Sweden doesn't have a martial culture, many of the people who were on the island froze like rabbits and allowed themselves to be executed. For me, is that person rehabilitatable? No. And on top of that, I'm sure the state could mount an irrefutable case of evidence, including probably social media logs, his own admissions, his manifesto that he published, basically explosives, fingerprints, all that kind of stuff, basically proving 100% that this person did the crime. Not only that, as a part of my arguments, and I'll wrap this up in a second, reciprocity is one of the bases of my arguments. Anders Breivik showed a uncaring attitude towards any level of reciprocity, and he slaughtered his fellow citizens as if they were animals. I think that a person like that, especially somebody who committed such an egregious crime, who we 100% know committed the crime and who is not rehabilitatable, I am okay with giving him the same level of moral consideration that he gave probably 90 innocent Norwegian or Swedish citizens. And I yield.
To counter that point, what would it's counterpoints, correct?
Yeah.
You're countering counterpoints points.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You can counter my points, but you can call me Connor as well. So whatever is preferable or more comfortable.
I'd like to call you Connor because you look like a Connor. If that's okay.
Sounds great. Connor's great.
Right. Let's go. Go ahead, CP.
To Connor's point, what this counselor would like to know is if Connor believes that the purpose of the death penalty is for more along the lines of revenge, where the reciprocity comes into play, or if it's more along the lines of deterrent.
Both. So I think that I'll explain very briefly. I know I talked for a long time, so I'll try to make it brief. So in order to basically mete out the justice that he meted out to other people, or the injustice that he meted out to other people, and then the second point as a deterrent, I think plenty of people do respond to the threat of lethal state action and don't take action as a result.
So to counter the point about deterrence, this is a little bit of appeal to authority, but this counselor has a criminal justice degree, and in my studies and in just basic research, it has shown that deterrence actually doesn't work to prevent crime, especially murder. For the main part is that murder is mostly done as a crime of passion. So the majority of people that end up committing murder have done so in the throes of an emotional state that they'll never get into again, and also are very, for the most part, regretful of that situation. The biggest deterrent to crime in general is the possibility of getting caught. So the higher the possibility of getting caught, the less likely people are to commit crime. So if they don't believe that they'll get caught, they'll more likely to commit crime. We can get into a bunch of other different scenarios about this, but since we're talking about the death penalty, that's what I'll stick to. As far as the reciprocity thing is concerned, this individual in question was essentially brainwashed and radicalized into a super white nationalist identity, believing that their version of the Democratic Party was allowing a bunch of foreigners to come in and completely changing the state. If one is to believe that rehabilitation is possible, rehabilitating an individual of this caliber is going to have way more positive impact than murdering this individual. If this individual is able to be shown the error of their ways and recant, that will have a much more more profound impact on other people that may try to follow him than getting murdered, because then you make the society makes the person into a martyr. And with that, I yield my time.
Okay, just to respond to that, so you brought up three things that are statistically prevalent, but I don't think necessarily apply, and this is where I think anecdotes are kind of useful. Because we're going to be anecdote Andying all over the fucking place. Because what we're really talking about is we're talking about the exception, not the rule. I think that and I don't even think capital punishment should be the rule. I think it should be the exception. I think it should be specifically for exceptional individuals. So, for instance, you brought up that people can be remorseful after they commit crimes. They can commit specifically murder. You said that people often are in a they're in a fit of passion. They commit a crime in the fit of passion. They are remorseful afterwards and are also unlikely to recommit. I don't think any of these applies to Anders Breivik. I don't think any of those apply to serial killers. I don't think any of those apply to terrorists. And in those three, in those three scenarios where a sound mind, dispassionate, unremorseful, ideologically possessed slaughterer of other human beings, I don't even give a shit about rehabilitation. So it's more about making a moral judgment about what we're willing and not willing to tolerate. So one of my final points, and let me delete that. One of my final points is we have to measure the total societal impacts of the death penalty, not just in a utilitarian sense, but also on a very specific moral one. So what I mean by that is there could be a utilitarian calculus that I'm unaware of. Maybe the death penalty doesn't do shit. Maybe if you get rid of the death penalty, you actually decrease violent crime because overall you're decreasing the normalcy for which violence occurs within a society. I have no fucking idea, right? I don't have the study in front of me. But at the same time, 70 to 90 people are dead. Anders Breivik is alive. He's in a jail. He's in one of the most humane societies on the planet. And he's bitching about his entertainment system being out of date. So, and I don't remember, but I think he might have won, and they gave him new shit. And even if they didn't, the fact that he has the nutsack to petition the government for an updated entertainment system when he murdered 70 to 90 people, if that man was inside my society, and anecdote Andy again, and a murderer killed 90 people, was not remorseful, and had the nutsack to complain to me that his entertainment system was not updated, I would happily walk him outside the jail and put a 25 cent for. Oh wait, hold on, that might be TOS. I would hope that
Yeah, it would be.
yeah, okay.
It's all in a
I
video
would
game.
hope the state would intervene and impose the death penalty.
There you go.
So
Let's hear. Thank you for the judges. Very well structured. Let us hear from Socrates and Tiberius. Same rebuttal.
So I could throw this over to either of you. I guess I'll throw this to Tiberius so that he can have a chance to get the conversation as
Yeah,
well.
you both
But this
will
is
be able to respond. Go ahead.
but this is a relevant point to both of the sets of points that were made, and this is also relevant to that point. So given that it sounds like both of the sets of arguments produced by the pro, it seems like there's a desire for this to be done only under very specific circumstances. Why then, and I have more, I'll keep going with this, why then would you want this to be broadly, universally defaulted to, given the great financial cost to society, given that it's employed not consistently, given that there's massive discrimination? And I'll just read one short anecdote of a innocent person who was almost killed. I know that Counterpoints mentioned that this kind of 10 to 1 innocent person for every 10 is a societal notion, but shouldn't be for capital punishment. Well, here's one of these people who was almost executed. In 1980 in Texas, a black high school janitor, Clarence Brandley, and his white coworker found the body of a missing 16-year-old white schoolgirl. Interrogated by the police, they were told, "One of you is going to hang for this." Looking to Bradley, the officer said, "Since you're the N-word, you are elected." In a classic case of rush to judgment, Brandley was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. The circumstantial evidence against him was thin, other leads were ignored by the police, and the courtroom atmosphere reeked of racism. In 1986, Centurion Ministries, a volunteer group devoted to freeing wrongly convicted prisoners, came to Brandley's aid. Evidence had meanwhile emerged that another man had committed the murder for which Brandley was awaiting execution. Brandley was not released until 1990. So given that this is so discriminatorily and inconsistently applied, and given the great financial costs of society, given the fact that this will not be applied just to these very limited cases, why should this be just broadly defaulted to for the entire country?
Tiberius, I'll let you go, but I have my own bullet points.
I'm sure you do. As far as my rebuttals here, coming into the conversation or the context of the conversation, I didn't know exactly where it was, so I'd actually be okay with the other side. I admitted that at the start, so forgive me. Maybe I'm on the wrong side here. Anyway, as far as the general default rule, I'm okay with it not being that. But what I definitely want to have is the option, the table, for specific instances that like Connor brought up, where honestly, how does this guy not have an anchor tied to him and thrown in the Pacific? But that we'll get there. The moral argument, at least for me going here, is that the biases of which that these things can be applied is absolutely legitimate in that concern. I fully concede on this notion. It's why I'm so restrictive on how it's used. Very, very specific rule points. However, the expense thing bothers me quite a bit. If we're gonna kill somebody, why are we making it expensive? This makes no sense to me. We have bullets. It's easy. Just do it. I know that I know that is largely seen as I'm sure there's an interjection. Go ahead, and then I'll finish out.
Just to clarify a point.
Interjection. I'm just kidding.
The reason that the death penalty is so expensive is not because of the method of the execution, but because of habeas corpus, in order to make sure that the person that's being killed is given all their due process rights, because it is taking of a life. So the United States court system has been designed in such a way that it gives people multiple chances to appeal the death penalty, the conviction itself, and then the death penalty separately. I think it's 12 appeals that a person can go through. So that's why it's expensive, because of all the appeal process. It's not because of the method of execution. The method of execution is actually relatively inexpensive.
Can I? Okay, so I would like to respond to this. These are all choices. These are all choices that we're making as a society. This is all administrative choices that we are making. So for instance, I don't care about appeals. Okay, 12 appeals, run them back to back, 6 months, different judges. Who cares? And specifically, so where I was talking about specific application is, I'm not talking about when you have circumstantial evidence, racial slurs used in the investigation, a confession brought under coercion. This is not the case that I'm advocating for at all, in which the death penalty be applied at all. Like even from your description of the police investigation, I can't even believe this resulted in a trial, let alone a conviction. So
It
yeah,
was the 80s.
well, that's fucking wild, and we can get into that in a second. But very specifically, with the appeals, you gave me an anecdote. I'll give you an anecdote. Sarnaev, Dashkar Sarnaev, who I believe is still with us to this day. Okay, so we know he did it. We know he did it with his brother. We know that he admitted to it. We have the evidence for it. He set off a bomb in a crowd, and he killed, I believe, like a 7 or 8 year old girl. I don't give a solid fuck about like anything. Like seriously, like we could literally set up 7 judges back to back or 12 judges, okay? 12 judges back to back in a 1 month period, or in a 1 month period each through 1 year. Okay. Do you agree with the way that this court proceeding was done? Yes, I do. 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 That way, instead of taking 2 decades for court review, in which we have this guy who we know for a fact committed the crime, an egregious crime against our society. And then on top of that, you said it wasn't the method of execution. I don't care, like I said, if it's a 50-cent 45 caliber round, or if it's heroin. He can go out in the most comfortable way possible. But he committed a crime for which he no longer deserves the right to draw breath. And it can be, you can hold his head and give him some heroin and play his favorite song and give him steak and lobster on his way out. I don't give a shit. But the fact that man is still drawing breath after committing such a heinous action is absurd to me. So I'll yield for now, but I would like an opportunity to address Socrates' points one by one.
Sure. Can I ask just
Tiberius,
quickly?
can
Oh,
Tiberius
sorry.
finish what he was starting to say before the interjection?
Mhm.
I unfortunately lost a bit of my train of thought on that. I apologize, but that's
Oh.
just how I work. But at least going into the last point that I wanted to make was, we labeled the death penalty as cruel and unusual. I'm okay with that. I think it is an extreme circumstance. What I am kind of aloof with on a moral and ethical level, I cannot speak to the legal ramifications. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in this kind of thing. Is that when it comes to the moral part, is that we are, at least in my opinion, as a society, deeming that there are certain actions that you no longer deserve to be treated with a humane and ethical approach. That you're basically ramshackled through a system, and then you're basically expedited into out of existence. We can talk about why that is the case, or like what particular cases that should be for. But I do believe that should be an option. A great example I want to give out to is that it is possible for a person that is in jail, that may be a gang leader or some kind of thing like that, to actively order the death of people who are out of jail. Now, if we could definitively prove this within any kind of realm of shadow of the doubt, which yes, that can still be problematic within its own self, is that even our our criminal justice system cannot fully defend people because they have power in prison. Maybe it's a better thing to yeet them out of existence. I surmise that to the opposition. Thank you.
And Socrates, your last
Sure.
statement on this question.
Sure. So I want to ask to both of the pro on this. So given that we've outlined that there's a financial cost, there will be a large number of innocent people executed. This won't be unless there's some magical system that we can develop, or there won't be an ability to make sure that this is not innocent people this is happening to. This will be discriminatory. This will not decrease the instances of these crimes. It might increase them. Given all of these social costs, I just want this person dead. And given also that, just to throw something else out there, a lot of the victims of these murders don't want this person executed.
Okay. I can address
Given-
this. Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. Just given all these things, is there any cost that would ever be so much to bear, given that innocent life doesn't seem to be enough? Is there any cost that would ever be a cause to reconsider just, I personally want this person dead?
Yeah, I reject your framing. So what, did I use pronouns incorrectly or something?
No, I'm agreeing with your tactic.
Okay, all right. So yeah, so I reject your framing. So basically, what I said earlier, I understand that I might be getting a little passionate using my anecdotes and what I would personally like to do to specific terrorists. I understand that might not be helping us remain dispassionate and objective in this conversation. But what I did say, that it should be done in very specific circumstances. So I'm gonna address all of your points that you made earlier, and I'm gonna address these points as well. Excuse me?
Interjection.
Okay.
You can accept or decline.
I accept.
Is there any way that the Counselor Connor believes that his desire to have this be done in very specific circumstances would ever be carried out within law in the society in which we live?
Yeah, I do think that the way that I frame this could be the way in which it's carried out. As a matter of fact,
how would that happen?
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, as we've kind of already pointed out, the death penalty was itself yeeted out of existence and then brought back, and then the court rulings narrowed the scope with which it could be used. I'm actually alarmed that the case that Socrates brought up didn't somehow trip the same alarm bells that we're talking about with these court cases. So if you can't execute a juvenile, if you can't execute somebody who is mentally deficient, if you can't execute somebody who's mentally insane, if you can't there were those mitigating circumstances that we brought up earlier. I am surprised that the case that he brought up was based off of circumstantial evidence, a single other witness, and basically meeting none of the parameters. So for instance, you brought up specifically, hold on one second, because I still have it written down. You brought up, it was like, could you rehabilitate them? It was committed in the moment of passion, like all that stuff. You brought all that up. So the fact that it met none of the criteria that we were talking about, we're talking about a specific real world example that fails our test. But that doesn't mean that I don't think that a better system is capable of being created.
So this counselor's question would be then, this might be getting off track, so it's fine if you reject it, but how would one go about creating such a system in light of the fact that even though we as a society currently have a system where we're supposed to narrowly define who can and who cannot be executed, even if after being found guilty of murder, in our adversarial system that we have now, the point that Socrates brought up would actually slip through the cracks.
Yeah. So this
how would, just to clarify, how would Counselor Connor's system work, given the fact that currently we have all these other things already in place that are a little more broad than what Counselor Connor would like, and despite that fact, still fell through the cracks.
So codification. So part of what we're talking about, and I want to respond to you directly, and then I want to stop, and then I want to respond to Socrates's points separately. So to respond to your points on its head, codification. So we're talking about federalization, right? Well, federalization can mean a lot of things. So federalization can mean that the Supreme Court now gives the green light to all of the states to use the death penalty, and that green light, and that green light is now opt out. So states basically have to pass through their legislature that they are opting out of having a death penalty. That's still up to the states. They can do that. They can pass that if they want to, but then the death penalty states can basically still have death penalties. Not only that, it can come with provisions. Those provisions could be created by incredibly smart people, such as yourself and Socrates, where you could say, there are these errant cases in which somebody was fucked over by the system in a way that you can barely find imaginable. Here are the safeguards that we want to be attached to every single death penalty case to make sure that we are correctly convicting the right person and correctly imposing the right sentence. And here's the thing. You're talking about the case in which it was improperly applied. I'm talking about a case that is virtually indisputable and isn't even it's not even in dispute by the people who committed the crimes. So these cases are not the same, and they can be differentiated, and codification can be a part of federalization. I can stop there, and then if anybody wants to object or respond, and then I would like to address all of Socrates' points.
Let's have Tiberius if he can. For
Cool.
sure.
I got Socrates' Representative Socrates' list written down, so I'm just gonna rapid fire these quickly. As far as cost, I do believe that there are certain actions that can be committed that, regardless of the cost, this person probably deserves to die. Now, this goes into do we just really, really want them to? We'll cover that down the list. Number 2 is deterrence. Fully concede this notion. I do not believe that the death penalty is a deterrence. So there you go. 3 is popularity. I'm not exactly versed on the public opinion polls what the death penalty is, but I would be amazingly shocked that there are certain societies or groups of states or peoples that would find the death penalty immoral or moral. Sorry, I worded that incorrectly. What I'm trying to say is that while I could see entire groups of people saying that this is an immoral action, I could see entire groups of society say this is absolutely immoral action. My state in particular. Go ahead, sir.
33% of people prefer it. Most don't, and just to widen the scope, like most other developed countries don't like it, consider it barbaric.
Interjection.
Go.
Most people don't want blood on their hands, and that's because most people are good people who don't want to make moral judgments about the life and death of other people. However, there's a different class of human being, and I'm not saying it's superior or inferior, but I am saying there is a different group of people who do make moral judgments about life and death. And you can this is actually it's actually a problem. It's a cultural problem. So we all agree, and I'm sorry for getting tangenting. I'll try to reel it back in. But basically, we all agree that fighting the Nazis was the right thing to do. We all agree that fighting Imperial Japan was the right thing to do. These things were terrible. We killed civilians. We killed opponents. Most people are so alienated against the concept of killing that 70% of people flatly rejecting the concept that they would want to be morally responsible for killing anybody at all is not surprising to me. And that has nothing to do with whether or not killing somebody through capital punishment is the right thing to do.
I'll take that as using up my number 4. Number 5, as far as cruelty, I acknowledge that it's a cool thing. However, I do not, I'm personally of the belief that there are certain actions that demand cruelty. Call me an immoral person yourself, and I will take that upon my shoulders, is that there are actions that if somebody did horrible things to myself, my family, or my community, yes, I would take an immoral action in reciprocity for that. Number 6 is discriminatory. I absolutely agree with this. I concede fully on this. I'm hoping, under some delusion maybe, that restricting the use of the death penalty, because the amount that we use it now is actually too much. But in the use of using it less, that we could maybe see discrimination go not away, but at least significantly reduced. Maybe that's a bad for. And then number 7 is permanency. I want it to be permanent. So. That's the
interjection.
Go ahead. I'm done.
So the issue with permanence is the fact that permanence and irreversible. Obviously, of course, if someone wanted that person dead, then would enjoy that. But if they're innocent, then of course they cannot be. No further cases can be brought to find their innocence. No further evidence will bring them back to life. Of course, this is why we don't like murder. Currently, 1 in 10 people who would be executed turn out to be innocent, and this is
interjection.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, let me just finish that statement, and then 1 in 10 are found to be innocent, and of course this has to be like an over or like an under finding of the true number, because of course not all these are thoroughly investigated. Please.
Okay. So these.
Hey, Spectre.
Excuse
Sorry,
me.
chat. Somebody important came in chat. Hello, Spectre. Go ahead, please.
If it's Spectre is super capitalism, tell him to stop fucking up my train of thought.
Stop fucking up his train of thought. I warned you about that, but he says, "Dang, good crowd."
All right. So this is a semantic argument, but it's important, and I'm going to make it. And then I want to address all of Socrates' points because I don't think that I can let him walk away. So, without the points being addressed. Number 1, these people were not found innocent. The courts of the United States never find somebody innocent. They were found not guilty. Basically what that means is that the evidence used to convict them was not sufficient to actually prove their guilt, and as a result, they were let go by the state after consideration. So, I reject this framing. Sorry, go ahead, bud. But if you distract from me and Socrates gets away from this, I'm holding you personally responsible.
No, I just
That's
for
true.
clarification, some of those people were found to be innocent because the actual killer was also found. So
Okay.
it's a mash issue.
I doubt 1 in 10 were found innocent. All right. So what?
Interjection. I agree. I misspoke.
Okay. All right.
Only some of those people were found fully cleared by finding the real killer, some kind of really good alibi. I'm sure some of those people were found like more accurately not guilty.
Okay.
There to that point, there's a 20-minute HBO documentary where who's the person from Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Larry David.
Yeah, Larry David actually got the guy off for murder because they were at the same baseball game. So just an FYI, it's kind of an interesting story.
Nice. All right. So I need to address all of Socrates' points, and basically, I would like the opportunity to finish all of these. So even if it takes a little bit longer, but all right. So I mentioned earlier that the death penalty can be done in very specific cases. As a part of federalization, it can basically come with strings attached. These cases that you're bringing up that are saying the death penalty was improperly applied here, we probably agree on whether or not it was improperly applied. And on top of that, I think we can reserve the death penalty for exclusively where we've proved beyond a reasonable doubt, but maybe where we've proved beyond a shadow of a doubt, where it's, DNA, witness testimony, uncoerced confession, physical evidence, witnesses, all that kind of shit. That way, if a serial killer is brought down by circumstantial evidence, I don't give a shit. Let him rot behind jail for the rest of his days. But if somebody is caught in a nursery beating babies to death with a claw hammer, then we convict him and judge him guilty and worthy of the death penalty within 12 months, and we put him to death. Next thing, you brought up financial cost. This is an arbitrary part of our system. It's administrative. We can change administrative costs. So if we have photo evidence, DNA evidence, picture evidence, witness evidences of this guy beating babies to death with a claw hammer, then we can eliminate the financial cost. All right? So some of these people will be innocent. I would say, I'm going. Sorry. So, okay. So basically, some of these people will be innocent. If you up the evidentiary grounds from reasonable doubt to shadow of a doubt, then you will probably bring the statistic down to maybe a rounding error, 99.999, 99.997. And for me, that's acceptable. Will be discriminatory. I think what I brought up earlier, where if it's proved beyond a shadow of a doubt, that will do it. Will not deter. I already brought up how deterrence is not the only thing. Inconsistent, I think I've already addressed that. Discrimination, already addressed that. Why federalized? Why federalized? I don't give a shit if this is federalized or not. But at the same time, this should be a moral judgment for each state. So if this comes down to the federal government saying, hey, you can do it with all of these stipulations, I would be in favor of that, because basically it gives everybody the opt-out clause. So if you're right that because here's the thing, I kind of called everybody a moral cowards earlier who don't want to make decisions about life and death. I think that's most people, approximately 2/3 of people, according to your statistic. So they can opt out if they feel so passionately about it. So 2/3 of the people can vote to end the death penalty in the state. And I yield.
Rebuttal? If we're still in rebuttal phase.
You are about to conclude rebuttal. The final statements for rebuttal will be 3 minutes. We would need to hear from the opposition, from one of the opposition.
If you would like to,
You go ahead.
Okay. So I guess just addressing these kind of, I guess I'll just go in reverse order. So this issue of discrimination, which is this is kind of related to most of these points, which is that because we'll stipulate this somehow none of these issues will be a problem. So there's reasonable doubt, there's police work, there's juries, there's courts. All of these same systems will be in place that have failed this other standard. But now we're supposed to believe that because the federal government just kind of mandates it in a guideline, that somehow they'll be able to follow a higher standard, that a discriminatory judge or police, that these won't be the phrase, there'll be uncoerced confessions. Well, of course, if the court knew and could prove that these were coerced confessions, of course they never would have been sent to death row in the first place. So, of course, that can't possibly be something that you could mandate using any of the same infrastructure. Maybe there's some way to have every case always go through some other special court throughout all the states. We'll have a fully new infrastructure. So this kind of gets to the cost issue, which I agree, if certain things are worth it, we should spend the cost. We shouldn't. Human life is worth cost. But if human life is worth cost, and I believe that we should protect human life, then we could spend it on other things to increase life. So just some examples. When police officers themselves were asked in a survey about what things they thought would deter crime, I think 7th on the list was the death penalty, but above that was helping with people who are addicted to drugs, helping abusive families. I've got the whole list here. Okay, here we go. Lack of law enforcement resources, drug, alcohol abuse, family problems, child abuse, lack of programs for mentally ill, crowded courts, ineffective prosecution, too many guns, and gangs. So it was ranked lower after all of these. And all of these are things that money would help. Not to mention actually just helping people who are homeless on the street or people who are dying of a medical condition. So if we actually care about life, I care about life, then it's not just a question of, we can spend this money however we want. Well, we should spend it in a way that actually protects life.
I don't know. Am I allowed to respond to that?
I conclude
You can make what we would say a closing defense.
Okay.
And then we're going to jury you, which isn't going to be too bad. And then you're going to tear each other apart until Cypher has to leave. How's that?
Okay. Sounds great. All right. So I brought up a legislate, like you were saying, these institutions are imperfect. So how do we know that they're going to implement your perfect ideal perfectly? Checks and balances. Checks and balances, checks on power. I reject this notion that institutions can't check each other. I reject this notion that if you put something in front of a federal judge or 12 different federal judges in order to confirm a verdict and confirm a sentence, that they're all going to make the same call. I reject this notion that you could so I reject this notion that you can just basically, like, you can't come up with sufficient evidence to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt and reserve the death penalty exclusively for the ones that you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. I reject it. All right. So police officers were asked what would deter crime, and 7th was the death penalty. I wouldn't ask police officers shit, okay? Police officers... Okay, police officers are fucking normies, all right? They don't know what the fuck is good for society. Okay, 8th. Okay, so police officers don't know what's good for society. They think that a fucking ass whooping and a night in a cage will fucking solve most people's problems, okay? I was a police officer. I love my fellow police officers very dearly. Most of them are incredibly good people, but I would never ask them about how to run society. And if I asked them how to run society, you would not like the answers that they gave. Okay. All right. Finally.
Thank you for that.
Finally, you brought up this thing, like you brought up death penalty investigative and administrative financing as if it's an or proposition. We can only do one or the other. We can only fund death penalties or help homeless people. We can only fund the death penalty or fund rehab shit. Fuck that, okay? We're in a new era of economics that we're figuring out whether or not fiat currency actually means shit, or whether or not fucking consumer confidence and fucking, printing money actually to keep economic productivity going is the only thing that matters. We can afford death penalty administration. We can afford death penalty investigation. We can also afford taking care of homeless people. We can also afford psychiatric care. We can also afford universal health care. We can also afford universal pre-K. We can also afford high quality education. We can also afford supporting American families. So I reject this fucking notion that you have to pick one or the other. No, I reject it. You can do both. I yield.
Closing rebuttal statements
in
from the rest?
Briefly?
In
closing, yes. In closing out this argument, this counselor would like to state that while the issue of the utilitarian advantage with measuring whether or not a society becomes more violent or not with the death penalty's existence has not been explored, I do believe that this counselor does believe that it is important to the conversation, and would like to bring attention to that in the closing statements. When society, this reminds this counselor of a line in the movie Ides of March where George Clooney's character is running for president as a enlightened centrist, and he is asked whether or not he himself would like to see the death penalty done away with. And he's asked, if you found a man standing over the body of your daughter, what would you do? And he said unequivocally, I'd kill him. But having a society make that determination with the flaws of man as they are should lead one to believe that it is not the right of the state to impose murder upon somebody else, but it is up to the state in order to provide most rehabilitation and to try to better society as a whole. And it is improper for a state to impose the death penalty from a moral utilitarian perspective. So this counselor believes that is an important point. Secondly, while the opposition would like to imagine this beyond a shadow of a doubt procedure that society could actually follow, this counselor does not believe that that is at all possible for a number of reasons. First, witness testimony is very flawed. People can't remember shit when they're in a fit of panic. They get details wrong. They even misremember the race of individuals of the people they attacked them. So their biases come into play. People are notoriously bad with this. Two, the only beyond a shadow of a doubt kind of thing to this counselor would see this being able to meet the opposition's claim is incontrovertible video proof of the crime being committed. It is unreasonable to believe that society will ever get to the point where that is always going to be the case. and as such, should probably be also rejected due to that, since society is not going to be at that spot ever, and therefore would rely on other methods to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt whether or not a person has killed somebody. As the opposition has already stated, we already have a beyond a reasonable doubt metric, and that has been proven to be immensely flawed. With that, this counselor yields.
Socrates. Briefly.
There were a number of points that I made for this. Actually, more than 4. Apologize. But it's interesting to see how many of these were just simply conceded. So it doesn't save money. It's conceded that it's more expensive. Doesn't reduce crime. That was conceded. It's unpopular. That's just a fact.
Can you slow down?
It's immoral. Even that was conceded. It's cruel and unusual. That was conceded. It's discriminatory. That was conceded. It's permanent and irreversible in terms of that the innocents will be harmed. These were all conceded. So, given that this pretty much every single actual point relevant to the harm or goodness to human beings or to society, other than this kind of vague sense that these people ought to get what's coming to them, well, I'll give you an anecdote. My brother was at a place where if he had stayed at that place another couple hours, would have been killed by Tsarnaev.
Okay.
For the reasons that killing the individual who would have been responsible for that was responsible for many deaths, be likely to radicalize others. That's not good. But for the simple reason that I personally don't think that killing is good. I don't think killing is good for our society. I don't think it's good for the soul of our society. I don't think we should do this.
Tiberius.
The only rebuttal I have here is it feels like you're picking on the weaker member of this team, Socrates. I do apologize in the regard that I'm definitely outclassed in this conversation. And
No, not at all. Don't ever say that. I
so-
disagree.
You
I
just
don't.
painted the jury
ask-
pool.
I don't invite losers, and
No,
you're here.
look. I did not know exactly what the context of this conversation was going to be or what it was going to go, and it kind of flipped over into a level that I really wasn't expecting. So, I've not
Good.
been able to adapt on the fly for this one at all. As far as my convictions here is that I'd have to like policy prescription every single little thing about like, all right, what's acceptable, what is it, which I kind of thought we might go down. As far as the general notions here, I think both sides have made strong arguments. I identify with a lot of Connor's arguments, but I do not disavow that the opposition has raised incredibly good arguments to themselves. I think this is a very polarizing, complex issue. I think that it should be used in certain very limited cases. I would say, at least for my own personal, is extreme. What's the word here? Extreme circumstances. I think Connor brought up a very good example of that earlier. I would say treason is actually one. It's usually pretty lock and check case for treason, in my opinion, whether it be espionage or whether it be sedition. Capital Riders, hello. Or the third, which is I forgot what was on the list. I apologize. There you go.
It's fine.
So I yield my time. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
I got hung up in your arguments and let it go right about 15 minutes longer than I wanted.
Can I'm sorry for trying to push it even further. Can I have one more go or no? It's okay if I don't.
No, you will be grilled in about 15 seconds.
Fair
And
enough.
then you then you kill each other in a video game on stream. This is called the jury. It's not in most debates. It's in mine. So the chat has come in with their questions. I have some of my own as judge. We just start. I can only tell you that to say that's a ridiculous question is going to be the wrong answer. No matter how ridiculous, we expect you to answer it, right? Here we go. First of all, opposition, Cypher. The problem you opened with, the stance Cypher opened with was, well, the problem with the death penalty is too many innocent people are killed on accident. It's corrupt and cruel and unusual. However, that's why the death penalty was suspended in the 70s in the first place. Whereas the motion is, why is death now the will of the people? Why are they now considering it not cruel and unusual punishment? So well, they should be rehabilitated first rather than this cruel and unusual punishment. Do you have any proof that rehabilitation has ever worked in the case of a mass murderer? Is there any proof or program showing that rehabilitation for multiple repeat murderers of extremely violent crimes can be rehabilitated?
Not on that specific question. I don't think off the top of my head. However, I can. This counselor can state that there has been people in prison that have actually made restitution to families, to victims, to the victims' families, and the victims' families, after said restitution has been made, has withdrawn their request for the death penalty in these cases. I know of them. I couldn't give you the direct anecdote answer to that right now, though, but I could look it up.
So, would it be more important to keep an intractable murderer alive than the very rare occasions where innocent people are falsely convicted? So that, in other words, for a few innocent people who might be falsely convicted because no system is perfect, are you actually suggesting that we keep all of the Sirhans and Dylan Roofs, etc., and all the Ted Bundys alive because we might make a few mistakes every now and then?
There's a couple of points in this counselor's opinion. It's not just that there's innocent people that are killed. It is this counselor's opinion that life is sacred. Even if the person in question has taken the life of somebody else, they are a living being themselves, which makes it immoral for a society to kill that person in retribution. Because this counselor believes that everybody is there, the vast majority of people are rehabilitatable, that should be the answer that society does in the question of murder. There should be restitution made to victims and society, and that can come through a number of different things. In the chat, I believe it was Designated Downer that said retribution in prison could be seen as more cruel to the person, as being basically having every minute of your life dictated by society. Is probably worse than death to many people, and this counselor would probably agree in some instances that is, even though this counselor doesn't necessarily agree with the kind of criminal justice system or the rehabilitation system, punishment system that the United States currently follows. But as stated, the issue is not only innocence lost, but also utilitarian, with having murder be a legal justified means of dealing with a problem, and also the fact that this counselor believes everybody is capable of being rehabilitated.
Socrates, in the vein of with the idea of rehabilitation, how do you restore a murder victim?
So the case of restitution is this is actually something that surveys were done for victims, looking at what people thought would be a reasonable level of restitution. So this is generally looked at as financial restitution. So $150,000 is a sum that has been brought up and has had a moderate level of acceptance within society at large. And so this would be paid for by the person themselves who works in jail. I forget the math on that, because that was 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, I think, being paid $3 an hour. That's 20 years, something like that. So that's what restitution is generally referred to in these cases.
So that the loss of a dear family member and all that potential $150,000, according to the federal government.
This is what Americans seem to prefer when asked about whether capital punishment, life with parole, life without parole plus restitution. Restitution, or everything other than capital punishment is more popular, and life without parole plus restitution is a popular option that people like. Of course.
What are you basing
Oh.
your claim that it's more popular on?
These are actually a couple different surveys. I can put them in the chat.
Yeah, okay, thank
That's
you. Moving on. So if it's okay that we can kill a murderer, would it be okay to torture a bully?
Who,
And that is for the pro team.
who's asking?
This is for the proposition team.
Okay. No, it's not okay to torture. So I disagree with Tiberius. I'm gonna throw a little shade at Socrates. I didn't concede half the shit that you said that my side conceded. Tiberius conceded that shit. I didn't concede any of
Sorry.
that shit. So I have 8 points and I got to 6 of them. But anyways, no, torture is not okay, and I'm not thinking of killing a murderer or putting down a murderer as a act of torture or cruel and unusual. I don't concede that it's cruel. I don't concede that it's unusual. When we have a dog who destroys young children, who kills young children, we don't torture it, we euthanize it. This is the same thing. It's just applied to human beings. And the divinity or the sacredness with which my opponents ascribe life, I would be curious about their religiosity, because I often find it ironic that people who aren't religious seem more defensive of life, whereas people who are religious seem more okay with doing what I think is just. So.
And in order to be, why does this have to cost so much money? Well, wouldn't it save money if we could just simply take away the constitutional rights of somebody who's been convicted and save ourselves all
Nope.
that money?
No, absolutely not. I don't want to live in an anarchic hellhole. I don't want to live in a fascistic dictatorship. I am not interested in any of that shit. Part of the reason why I'm interested in the death penalty is because I want the good running of a functional and civilized society. I am not interested in suspending the rules that make us a good and civilized society.
Okay, so then having a prisoner where if we were going to seek retribution for what he's done, so keeping me in prison for life, which is torturous to him. Wouldn't it make more sense to keep that retribution going for all of his life, since he's taken life, rather than end his life and be rather merciful in allowing him to avoid these consequences?
I think there is a case for mercy. Okay, the case for mercy is in atonement. Okay, and atonement and redemption and mercy and forgiveness have a role in our society, but there are some things that society can answer, and there's some things that God needs to answer. So, or the void need to answer. So,
Yeah, right.
so terrorism, serial killing, and infanticide are my 3 penalties. As a matter of fact, treason would not be one of the penalties for me, because espionage or whatever, like if treason results in death, sure. But terrorism, serial killing, and infanticide would be the examples in which I think that if you prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, the death penalty would be warranted. And it would be more akin to euthanasia than torture.
Mm-hmm. So that's the case where somebody's done something bad enough that we feel justified in taking their life.
Yep.
Just for that clarification.
Mm-hmm. It's like euthanizing a rabid dog.
Okay, we're gonna bring out a few more comments and questions from chat. In regards to the issue of finding someone innocent, under the United States Constitution, aren't the accused already presumed to be innocent?
Sure. If you want to argue semantics. Sure.
Yeah,
sure. But I think the term is not guilty.
The term
so that was something
is not guilty.
So
but
that was
in fact, aren't they under the law innocent until proven guilty?
Who's that directed
so
to?
These were people who were
convicted
and therefore presumed guilty. I wish we had Pisco or somebody to.
Well, that's okay.
talk
You
about
don't
that.
need him. I have a lawyer background. That's fine. Me and Cypher can handle that for you. Just no problem.
It was a semantic argument, and the reason it was being made is because some of the people that were found to be not guilty may have in fact committed the crime. However, the evidence in question was not found to be have been obtained or received in an ethical and judicious way. So the conviction itself was overturned, but that doesn't mean the person's necessarily innocent. Personally, I believe most of those people would be innocent in this case, but it is fair to say that some of them may not be. So.
Yeah, and then there were those other people who they were convicted, and then they, through DNA evidence, further investigation, whatever, they found that the actual killers.
Yeah.
And that's like a kind of, I don't know legally if there's any difference between those things in terms of innocent, guilty, something like that, not guilty, but it's a, I think we would kind of recognize this as a different type of situation where it's more than a technicality. Basically, they were actually not the guilty party.
So all of our speakers agree that in fact the judgment rendered in a court of law is in fact to be determined either guilty or not guilty.
Correct.
No one can be deemed innocent or vindicated except for when the actual killer is caught.
Yeah, yes, and I even hold some exception for that. So, for instance, in a gang rape case, if they prove that somebody has DNA and then they use that, but there were multiple assailants, just because it's like, oh, okay, well, this person wasn't involved because we didn't find DNA. That doesn't necessarily mean that person is innocent. Same thing with other gang related shootings. There was actually a gentleman who was put to death in the state of Georgia. I forget what the I forget the gentleman's name, but it was a black gentleman, probably about 4 years ago. And basically, in that case, it was a question of who was actually the trigger puller. That was the only thing that was.
I remember that case. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
No, that's it. All I was going to say was it was 3 people. They rode around town. They actually shot a gun into another car, blowing off somebody's jaw. They went to a donut shop and started beating the shit out of a homeless person. An off-duty cop ran up to them and they killed the off-duty cop. And 2 of the guys, I think, pointed out the third guy, and then maybe it was one of them who actually pulled the trigger. I don't give a shit. Is my answer.
Yeah, that was called the wide swath of stupidity case.
I believe it.
So and let's throw you out a tiny hypothetical. I let it go about 15 minutes longer than I wanted, but tiny hypothetical. And so under that definition, in your common understanding, is Charles Manson guilty?
If that's directed to me, absolutely. And I think conspiracy to commit murder. I think organizing murders. Yeah, fuck yeah. Like what is it? Like should Osama bin Laden be convicted of terrorist attacks? Fuck yeah, and put his ass down.
Well, sure.
Thanks, Obama.
It's open to all of you. Is Charles Manson guilty based on that?
I agree with Connor on this one, specifically because there's direct links to what Manson did and the other people did that were mentioned, and the attacks themselves. There was material planning and execution done by the top, and even though they weren't there to pull the trigger or use the knife or fly the planes, they were explicitly involved in the planning and execution of those attacks.
Okay, interjection.
I will third the notion.
Sorry. Interjection.
Yeah, I'm being a little bit of a smartass, but what?
Oh, that's fine. It sounded so convincing. I was like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so no. What?
So I'm used to this.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say for Cypher, because he was saying I don't know whether or not shadow of a doubt can exist because there's all these holes in these different kinds of evidence. I'm fine with acknowledging that there's holes in different kinds of evidence, but this is to an earlier point. You can basically take the totality of circumstances. So witness testimony by itself might not be enough. Video evidence by itself might not be enough. Digital forensics might not be enough. DNA evidence might not be enough. Physical evidence might not be enough. But in totality, they can create a totality of circumstances that reaches the threshold of beyond a shadow of a doubt. And in the case of the Manson, and in case of Osama bin Laden, and in case of a few other people, I think you could reach that threshold and impose a capital sentence.
And Tiberius.
I'm sorry.
That was serious, but
Is Charles Manson guilty?
oh yeah,
Based on that
yeah. I was trying to say that I third the notion that that Connor initially put out there. Yes, the main.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. For the opposition, this is for the con side. This would be Cypher and Socrates. If an inmate is sentenced to life and they request the death penalty, Gilmore, shouldn't it be granted to them rather than allow them to rot away in prison? Which one is more cruel?
sure, I can answer this one if you want to go as well, Cypher. So we wouldn't allow somebody to say, hey, I would like to be in jail. I'm living in a place I don't like. Let me into the jail. We would never allow somebody to just opt into some punishment for a crime. That's not something that we ever allow. If in a state in which assisted suicide is legal, and if that person met those requirements, and I think inmates should have the same access to that everybody else does, then of course I think they should be able to allow for that. But I don't think that people should just be able to opt in, should just be able to choose to have a punishment that they haven't been determined by the state to have that crime.
That's Cypher.
I also agree with the notion of one has total full control, autonomy of themselves, and then taking their own life. If a person deems it to be more cruel and unusual to rot in jail than to be killed, because I believe in full body autonomy, I would allow that option on the table. It is not a question of whether, for me specifically, it is not a question whether or not it is cruel and unusual. It is one of a more utilitarian perspective, and not being able to fully have ensure that no innocent person is ever put to death. So those are my two primary positions.
Okay. I've got one little question. We take a very short break, and we're going to come back and watch you guys destroy each other in classic Twitch debate bro style. No, I hope. One last question. This is for This is for Connor DePoint. Okay, Counterpoints. About that baby smashing hammer person. Okay. How does killing them right the wrong? Should we study them and see why they did that? Like Dahmer?
Sure, study their cadaver. Like I don't care. But like this is like I don't, whatever scientific bullshit you want to do. If you want to interview them for 2 months before they get put down, but I don't give a shit. So and here's the thing. So I know I used an extreme example, partially for the fucking memes, but that doesn't change the fact that there's like real families who have killed their adopted children. There are real people who have killed their babies through exposure or beating. There are real people who have, killed kids, killed disabled people, tortured people, kidnapped and raped people, disposed of multiple, like seriously, like dozens. Like we've proved dozens, but they could have killed hundreds. I don't give a shit. Interview them for 60 days, stick a needle in their arm, give them some heroin, play their fucking favorite song, feed them steak and lobster, and then you can study their body when they're done. I don't give a shit.
Okay. There are a couple other ones. What do you do with the people who found to be chemically off balance? They had a mental health issue. Should they be executed?
No. No. So one, like actually some of the criteria, I think CSP brought up some really good criteria that should be part of the calculus for whether or not capital punishment is warranted. And he would have to remind me of it. But it was basically like, was this crime committed in the heat of the moment? Are they likely to reoffend? And are they rehabilitatable? If a person is rehabilitatable, I think that alone should take death penalty off of the table. Okay. So even in the case where terrorism or something like that, if they're willing to literally like a reverse Captain America, if they're willing to fucking go on stage for the rest of their fucking lives in shackles, or maybe not even shackles, that's cruel and unusual, but basically like go on stage for the rest of their fucking lives and being like, I am murdering scum. I realize what I did was wrong. I realize the impacts that I've had on society and the impacts that I've had on families. I was in a different place when I did these things. Here's how I got there. Here's how you avoid these traps, and here's why this is unequivocally wrong. And if they were able to, even if they weren't articulate, even if they were able to make that case in any shape, form, or function, then that is where I would concede the point that this person would be, they wouldn't be able to reverse the wrong that they imposed on society, but they might be able to prevent future wrong through showing remorse and serving as an example.
Okay, we're gonna take just a little short break, 1 or 2 minutes. Anybody that needs to go take, the bio, whatever you got to do. There are some other questions that are going to set the context for your what we call a cross-examination, which is where you just attack each other's arguments, as you know. And then Cypher will have to leave, I believe, by 28 minutes.
I can
We're
go
going to take
over
just a couple
little
minutes.
bit.
Let's go about 2 minutes. The rest of you, if you'd like to stay, please do so. Let me know, and we'll extend it. But out of respect for Cypher, we're going to go ahead and give y'all about 25 minutes to stay about 2 minutes and come right back. So can the moderators time that for 2 minutes? Take care of that. Somebody get in the Discord with our guests, please, and make sure they're all cool. And we will see you in about 2 minutes.
So I have something starting around 10, maybe 10:15, but I also, that's not a remotely strict deadline, so I'm happy to stay longer as well.
Yeah, I can stay for maybe like 5-10 minutes past that, but I promise my wife I'll walk the dog with her, so I do have to go at that time. I will be right back. I'm gonna get some more to drink.
DJ here to field the gap while UD's off. How is everybody?
Doing all right.
See, has UD done shoutouts recently? No problem, Kat. Sorry about that beeping, chat.
Yo. Well, I, for one, would like to say this is one of the best goddamn debates I've ever been on.
Say that again. I just got back.
I was going to say, I, for one, this is one of the best goddamn debates I've ever been on. Fucking...
That's good, because you've been fucking, like, just carrying this team this whole time.
No, I love the structure. This is so...
That's fine. PM at you, by the way.
What's that?
PM at you, by the way.
PM matching?
PM at you, by the way.
Oh, okay. Let me check my shit.
Okay. That goddamn chicken dance song. Hi, Downer. I'm warning you guys. I'm pulling that up. Okay. All right. Let me take a moment. Is everybody got a little bit of a break?
Settled.
All good.
Just really quickly, Tiberius, do you have a Twitch channel that I could shout out here?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Can you type in chat so I know who you are?
Yeah, I gotcha. 10 seconds.
Fantastic. You.
There you go.
I was just stopping in to fill the void.
Thank
sure, no
you.
problem.
That's my Downer is my awesome new co-host.
Sweet.
Yeah, please shout him out. Let me get some food. Get some energy for this.
I was actually gonna say, like, this is a little bit, this is like more intense than like waiting around for fucking 7 people to shut the fuck up so you can yell for fucking 20 minutes. So like I'm more tired. Yeah, I am more tired now from fucking like thinking super hard and fucking trying to codify my points and like bring back somebody else's point. Like I'm white. Three and a half hours is definitely too long for this shit. Yeah.
From actually trying to provide a logical argument and defend yourself decently is more exhausting than good old blood sports.
Oh, dude, yeah, literally. Like, I don't know if it's just today or what, but like my brain is like legit more fried from having to actually consider.
Good.
What somebody's
and
saying.
Everyone's saying relevant things. You have to listen to everything people are saying because it's all relevant.
Yeah, dude.
Good.
Like definitely. I think this should be the future, for sure.
You haven't even started.
Yeah.
And your cross-examination, so.
But. Oh well, I'm probably gonna hate cross-examination, but we'll see.
Cross-examination's a bit more combative, so it's more what you're used to.
It's fine. I'm ready. Maybe you'll give me some more energy.
But by this point, you're usually kind of like, I'm not gonna say this for the 5th time. Let's go. Tiberius is. This is Tiberius D. There you go. Crowdsourced politics.
Oh, Uni, I am recording this, and I'll be posting it on my channel. If you want me to send you to post it on your YouTube as well, once.
On my YouTube, yeah, I have mine on the VODs. That's fine, and I want to do a little editing. Actually, might not need any, and that would be just fine. Okay. So these are the people we have who stream. Counterpoints is this.
What am I supposed to be doing?
Okay.
I'm just smiling awkwardly into the camera. I have no idea what's going on. What are we doing?
Right. Do we have your camera back? Let's see. Who do we lose?
For some reason, Counter is not showing up on the Twitch, but he is.
He will in a
now
second.
he's back.
Okay.
In a second.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you need me to shut down and reset, let me know.
No. It's never like that. It has a thing to do with Discord will save energy or something by whatever. All you gotta do is scroll over. It'll appear. Boom, shows right back up.
Okay, cool.
Got it.
So we've let you have a minute. You've let me have a minute. There are some other questions. The audience, your audience, you were trying to convince. Overall, and you will attack each other's arguments in this context, is that reinstating capital punishment moves us further away from any hope of having a restorative, rehabilitative justice system.
Who's that to?
And that is not a question. That is the audience. Okay, who now you are arguing to them. And this is how your majority has shown that they are feeling that the capital punishment will move us away from restorative, rehabilitative justice system. So in your cross-examination, you're going to argue each other, you're going to attack each other's arguments and see if you can persuade your audience to your side.
Okay.
We will still begin with proposition first. These answers are going to have to be shorter. I'll just warn you that much.
Okay. I'll go first. So basically, number one, all of you are wrong, and I will individually show up to your houses and force you to agree with me. So basically, this is bullshit. This is actually the duality of man. We can only be violent. We can't seek redemption or forgiveness. It's bullshit. And on top of that, it's a horrible way to view the world. We are not sheep. We are not monkeys. We are capable of discernment. We are capable of judgment. We are capable of mercy and atonement and redemption. As CSP brought up earlier, you know, basically that you can have like the rehabilitation should be what dictates whether or not somebody even gets put to death in the first place. So if somebody is not rehabilitated, it's because they are not conceding that they did anything wrong, and therefore fuck that person. So this is what you need to have. You need to have an iron fist inside a velvet glove. Diplomacy is always on the table. Peace is always on the table. Mercy, forgiveness, redemption is always on the table. But to wolves and predators who take advantage of the weakness of society, that is not on the table for them, and it is their choice that they are not receiving that mercy. Yield.
What's Tiberius?
All right, sure. So I have no problem with a system that is rehabilitative, and I have no problem with a system that's even more rehabilitative. However, I do not believe in a system that's going to take one or the other off the table. I don't want a system that capital punishes everybody who, you know, literally just steals a cookie. On the other hand, I don't want a system that doesn't just say, you know what, we're not going to kill you. I think there should be at least something there on the table. Now, does that mean that having it on the table means that that we can't do rehabilitative more? I think this is an absolutely ridiculous notion, and I apologize if that offends anybody, but fuck that shit. As, as far as where we're at now, okay, is there problems of the death penalty? Is it used on the wrong people? Definitively, yes. Yes, I concede that fully for that, which was more of the conversation I really wanted to have anyway, is that what should we codify as, you know what? You know, if you do this, you're going to get yeeted in the sun. We don't want you. We don't like you. And you have given up, you have forfeited your right to life, if you will. I think there's some cases to be made here. There was a little bit of a thing that I'm sorry, I'm gonna tangent. I'm gonna stop with that. We'll work on for the next part.
Opposition then.
I'll go first. So it seems that the proposition is of the mind that it seems that the proposition is of the mind that if a person agrees that they had did something wrong, that that they want to make amends, that the death penalty should be taken off the table in that case. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. Like basically, I'll be really quick. I am not a Christian religiously, but I am a Christian ethically. I think people should be capable of receiving redemption and forgiveness when they seek it.
Okay, and then Tiberius kind of did this little thing.
I'm more of the determination that if we get to the point where we're considering the death penalty, you've given up your personal stake in this. Is that I don't give a damn what your opinion is.
Okay, that's fair. So I guess to Connor then, if somebody is incapable of admitting that they had done wrong, wouldn't that at times, and even maybe most of the time, show that they have some sort of mental faculty defect that prevents them from realizing that what they did is wrong, and therefore are not entirely culpable for their actions?
Sure, diagnose it, but at the same time, you're like we brought up earlier examples like mental capacity, intelligence, all that kind of shit as things that are necessary to know that these people committed crimes, knowing what they did and all that kind of, like I even think Sarnaev, I think that was part of his defense, was that he was young and impressionable and going along with his brother and all that kind of shit. But that's going to be this is going to have to be determined by the court. And on top of that, I would leave it up to like so for instance, like I will concede that the American court system is a jury of my peers. I don't like my peers very much. But at the same time, if it was a jury of people similar to everybody on this panel show who was on a death penalty jury or something like that, which had some higher bar of moral or civic virtue in order to determine whether or not the death penalty is appropriate, I am perfectly comfortable with that. I am perfectly comfortable with a jury of peers making a determination about whether or not somebody actually deserves the death penalty.
So in that case, would you, for lack of a better term, would Consular Counter, for lack of a better term, concede the point that this isn't something that is to the public at that point then, since Consular Counter had brought up the fact that they would be more comfortable with a jury of people like us? Wouldn't that come into an effect being some sort of an elitist kind of position, and not to the people, but to a some sort of higher authority?
Sure, I'm an elitist. You got me.
Okay. I guess my final point would be then, would the opposition then state that for the death penalty to come into effect, would psychopaths, sociopaths, whatever you want to call them, would they be taken off the table as being on the death penalty? Because
No.
currently, right now, at the time that one committed an action, did the person know it was wrong to do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, sociopaths and psychopaths, whatever you want to call them, know that the action is wrong, but they did it anyways. However, that is a mental faculty defect within their own mind, biologically driven, socially driven, whatever have you, the reason that they did it. So would that mean that they would, under their system, be no longer allowed to be considered for death?
No, and the reason why I'm putting it this way is because I think that there's contextual things that we can all understand that we can't right now. You're like, and this is the thing. So we brought up criteria earlier that I feel like are objective. So for instance, it was like, are they rehabilitatable? What are they remorseful? Like all that kind of shit. We brought up those things on whether or not death penalty was even on the table. I think once it reaches that threshold where death penalty is on the table, you can reach calculations. So for instance, Ted Bundy, put that dude in the fucking ground. He's a liar. He's a sociopath. He's charming. Yep. He knows what he's fucking doing. He beat like what was it, like 8 girls to death with a fucking pipe. That dude will say whatever he needs to say in order to stay out of the ground. But contextually, you know that any amount of his remorse is very likely bullshit. Put him down. So same thing. Well, and then let's do the inverse. Yeah, the inverse is, okay, so there's this guy. He's not willing to concede. He's he's Jihadi John. He's the guy who sawed off, people's heads in, ISIS Syria, and basically like mocked their families while fucking doing it. And he's refusing to recant ISIS's ideology. He might be a sociopath. His mom hit him with a belt a few times when he was 13. I'm going to leave that up to the fucking jury, okay? They can decide whether or not this is a beaten child who fucked up, or whether or not this is a fucking sociopath who needs to be, as Tiberius eloquently said earlier, yeeted out of existence.
Then I guess I would bring up the point that wouldn't that be then considered to be cruel and unusual punishment, since psychopaths and sociopaths, while they know that they did is wrong, they're not entirely in control of their faculties because they have something missing from their mental capacity that prevents them from carrying out these actions.
No, because this is the same thing. This comes back to my dog analogy. I know people don't like dehumanizing language, but I'm going to use it. So basically, a pit bull who attacks. Sorry, what's that?
That's fine here.
Okay, so a pit bull who attacks a child. I'm actually like a dog lover. I love all dogs. I love all shapes and sizes. I love pit bulls. I love chihuahuas. I love terriers. I love all dogs. Okay, but if a pit bull, regardless of whether or not it's beaten when it's a puppy, if that thing mauls a child to death and it's not rehabilitatable, and it's not, it serves no social function, it's likely to reoffend, it shows no remorse, I am not being cruel and unusual by putting the dog down. I am euthanizing it because it no longer serves a social function. It has caused an irreparable damage to another person's life, and feeding it and petting it for the rest of its life isn't going to do shit to fix the dog's temperament, to fix the dog's biology, to fix the dog's history. It's not going to do shit. Put it down. It's a waste of resources. It's over.
Okay. Let's have Socrates and Tiberius chime in. Cypher and Connor clearly are the core. Let's go ahead and hear the other two.
Sure. So this is just a quick question. It's not really an argument, but it's just something I'm just curious about, and then I'll start getting to my actual opening statement and everything. But just on this new elitist death council, whatever it is, that would be determining who does this, would the only people eligible for serving on this that rare breed of human who is interested in considering, having their hands drenched in blood, is that the only type of citizen, or
No.
that would be eligible for this?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, if anything, so the judgment should actually be specifically people who don't want their hands drenched in blood. That actually should be like the like almost like a prerequisite. Is that it would be split between people who are okay with the death penalty and people who are not okay with the death penalty, because the judgment is basically like so here's the thing. Death penalty is very serious. I am taking this subject as seriously as you are, and I am not memeing while I'm saying what I'm saying. I am saying what's inside my head, okay? So, that's a very serious responsibility. I don't want somebody who wakes up at fucking noon, slaps on fucking, like PJs, goes to Walmart and fucking eats like the slow cooked hot dogs or whatever. I don't want that person making the fucking decision, okay? I don't want that person. I want a person who is a above average moral character, above average intelligence, above average moral consideration, who is selected for that jury or decision to decide whether or not the death penalty is appropriate. And on top of that, I would want probably a 50-50 split or a 60-40 split of people who were hostile to the death penalty in general. Because then at that point, you basically have people who are not temperamentally interested in imposing the death penalty, who would only impose it in the most extreme of circumstances. And that would actually be that would actually be interesting, because then my baby hammer example wouldn't be so fucking extreme, because you would see the details of the case. You would see how it affected the families, you would see how it affected society, you would see the social impacts, and you, the person who is intentionally and morally against imposing death on another human being, you have to be convinced that it is the right moral choice.
Okay, that makes sense. There's several issues that I feel like are kind of core to this, that I'm not sure if we've properly addressed, or maybe kind of cornerstones of this, that if you pull on it, the whole thread unravels. So the two, as I see it, is one that Connor just mentioned, of costs, saying that the cost to try to rehabilitate this dog would be too high, that it's not worth it, which seems counter to this previous argument about how the high cost of death penalties is worth it, and that we have unlimited spending. If it's something that's worth doing, we have unlimited spending to do it. It seems to me that there's a higher statistical probability, just based on my basic understanding of math and linear time, that the probability of somebody recanting and rehabilitating increases or doesn't decrease as their life goes on. It seems to me that somebody who is killed cannot have a higher likelihood of recanting or rehabilitating than somebody who lives 5, 10, 20 years, right? So if our objective is to create a rehabilitative society, then it seems of paramount importance to physically give people even the space to rehabilitate. And much more than that, it seems like I'm not convinced that we've actually really tried to rehabilitate these people. So given how many of these cases are not even investigated thoroughly, maybe not even the first time, but certainly not even reviewed, there's a massive need for donations and lawyer power to actually examine and take a real look at so many of these cases that just practically haven't been examined. Given that, I find it hard to imagine that in the jail, in 1 second, that in the jail these people have actually been attempted to be treated.
Except for decline.
He declined.
He declined it.
Except
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Can I slightly postpone it? Is that a
Yeah.
Like
of course.
In 1 second? Yes. Yeah. Please. Just to finish the sentence. Please.
Just make sure I hear you very clearly. Okay.
Yes. Understood.
Yeah, I'm good with you continuing. I can wait.
Oh,
Good.
okay. Where was I? And so the other fundamental just type of issue, which I feel like the proposition has attempted to evade, is the actual real life practical implementation of any of this. Not how they would love for it to be implemented, how it ideally would be implemented, but how this ever could really or would be implemented, or is really similar to our countries operating as things actually are. So even in the case of like a federal jury, there's this capital jury project that's shown that jurors in capital trials generally do not understand the judge's instructions about the laws that govern the choice between imposing the death penalty and a life sentence. Even when they do comprehend, jurors often refuse to be guided by the law. Juror comprehension of the law is mediocre. The effect of this relative lack of comprehension of the law is to reduce the likelihood that capital defendants will benefit from the safeguards against arbitrariness built into the law. So even at a federal level, these don't seem to operate well. And everything down the line, when it comes to us having any of the facts of the matter, of course we could try to limit this just to the cases that seem very, very obvious. And we could have this kind of council of people who are the most moral imaginable. Maybe we could push this all the way up to the Supreme Court. But not to get political on everyone's asses, but when it comes to the Supreme Court, we have somebody up there who is an alleged rapist that we didn't even properly investigate. So what actual practical situation in our country could we ever really implement this? And then combine that with the idea that if we actually want to rehabilitate people, well, let's actually try to do it. How can you say that someone can't be rehabilitated? What does it mean to make that claim? It doesn't seem that we invest very much in it. And so just to say, well, they haven't instantly, well, how long do we give them to recant and rehabilitate? 6 months? 5 years? 10 years? It seems like their chances of rehabilitating probably increase over time and probably increase with resources.
Did you?
I don't know if I have to throw that off to somebody in particular. Or...
No. I got it. I was
Cypher,
memeing a little bit.
It's right about time to walk the dog.
Well,
it's fine. I can stay for about another 5-10 minutes or so. It's not a hard set time.
Okay. Well, CSP, do you mind if I address that, or do you want to do something before you go?
No, go ahead. I want to stay here until we're finished, so we can get the VOD, and then good.
I will have it saved.
All right, cool.
So go ahead and do what you got to do. Go ahead.
So okay, so basically this is my thing. So you're saying, oh, how can we possibly implement this? We're 4 smart motherfuckers inside a room. I'm pretty sure we could figure it out. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I already partially figured it out through this fucking conversation. You keep talking about how it's operating now, how it's operating improperly, and you're acting like systems can't be improved upon. This isn't accurate in any fucking shape or form. All institutions evolve over time. I'm not comparing the case in 1986 to what I want out of the fucking system. And I've already said multiple times, and I'm being a little bit of a smartass, I just don't know if you're fucking hearing me, but I've already conceded multiple fucking times that these are not about the rules. These are about the exceptions. Most murderers, it's like 80% of murders are fucking like drug-related fucking criminal offenses. I think like another fucking 10 to 20% are fucking like DV, domestic violence. I'm talking about serial killers, terrorists, and I think infanticide was the third example that I fucking brought up. And on top of these 3 very niche crimes in which I think fucking capital punishment is warranted, I basically said, yeah, sure, have a fucking dozen judges fucking review it. And on top of that, raise the bar from beyond a reasonable doubt. If it's beyond a reasonable doubt, it's not even a fucking debate. They just go to jail for life. Okay. However, if it's beyond a shadow of a doubt, as we brought up some examples in which killers, murderers, serial killers are known to be the perpetrators of these crimes beyond a shadow of a doubt, then at that point capital offenses or capital punishment comes onto the table. On top of that, there was these concessions that CSP brought up. CSP can be the head of my elitist fucking death penalty fucking board if he wants the job, and he can fucking bring up the circumstances in which a felonious, murderous piece of rapist shit can fucking basically atone for his sins and fucking escape the fucking death penalty. CSP can be in charge of that. I don't give a fuck. On top of that, the juries, I'm not fucking talking about whether or not like I need the 12 most moral people inside the United States. I just don't want people with an IQ that's like slightly below room temperature to be deciding fucking capital cases. That's all the fuck I'm saying. So if their IQ was above 110, if we could test for that, I don't fucking know. You can help me fucking figure that out because you seem like a smart fella. Juror comprehension was actually your example in which I think that the bar needs to be raised. You basically said in the system that we have right now, jurors are dumb fuck hot dog eating wall Martians that don't deserve to fucking sit on the seats that they're fucking keeping warm and that they're farting into. I agree with you. Let's raise, I'm going to ignore for like another 30 seconds and then I'll stop memeing. So basically like, Basically, I agree with you. I want a smarter caliber of human deciding whether or not we're going to euthanize people. And I think we can come up with a system, especially the 4 fucking brainiacs that are in this room right now. I think we can come up with a better system for selecting people for fucking death penalty shit. All right. And then finally, do we want to rehabilitate? Do we want to extend the time for which people can be rehabilitated? I don't give a fuck. And like, I hate to say it that fucking, I hate to say that, but if I walked into the fucking jail cell of Doshkar fucking Sarnaev and I said, hey, you killed a fucking 8-year-old. You killed like 7 different fucking people. There are 30 people who are missing fucking limbs. One of whom I saw a personal fucking picture of their artery being held by somebody's fingertips because of what you did. You can either talk to the psychologist or we can start the death penalty the death penalty review by CSP. Either start talking to the psychologist and we'll see whether or not you fucking recant, or we can put you down in fucking 12 months once we have your fucking case reviewed. If he says, nah, I want to get fucking put down, then I'll be like, okay, sweet, bye, fuck you. And then that's the fucking end of the conversation.
Can I get on this a little bit?
You need to. Yeah.
Yes.
Where
Okay.
have you been?
So yeah. Bigger personality.
You were eating hot dogs at Walmart. You just didn't want us to know.
Fair enough.
Hey,
Anyway,
hot dogs are delicious. All right.
True. I'm gonna get on this one. So the first part here is like
it's delicious.
The first part is that in a good faith conversation, I'll be like, all right, cool. The law, or at least in most laws that revolve around murder, obviously give credence, I believe is the word, for like how the murder is committed. A great example is the difference between, somebody who was in the heat of the moment, clearly, that killed his wife and the cheating bastard that they were with, right? Versus the situation out of California back in 2011, where people were lured onto a boat, tied to, or had their hands and feet bound down, and then literally were yeeted off the boat. Obviously one is far more heinous than the other one. Now, if I am going to be good faith and say, look, that maybe there is room to say this needs to move, then maybe we should take off at least a single homicide, as you cannot kill somebody for that. If that would improve your barrier or threshold to say, look, we, at least that we're not killing people as often and maybe we have more scrutiny, then I will concede that. Hooray. The other side of this is that I do want to have this ethical question. I don't understand what the value of rehabilitating certain murderers would be. Maybe one dude that, killed his ex-wife, sure, but, I don't understand the idea. It's like, look, I just threw these people off the side of a boat because reasons. Like, what is the value? What is the literal value of rehabilitating this person? You clearly, this person clearly did not give any credence to these people's rights to their own lives or their own self-determination. Why should we give that in reply to them at all? If ever. I don't personally, in my own ethical code, that doesn't work. But I'm arguing for my ethical code, and if I get outvoted, I get outvoted. But I'm here as the pro side. I'm done.
Interjection, quick question. So, okay, so this is a personal question, but I think it's pertinent to like perspective. So Socrates and CSP are either one of you guys religious?
I'm
That's
not.
a tough question. I don't know, man.
No, okay.
I-
So this is
I
this is
don't
do
know
the
how to
not
answer
follow.
that today.
this is the reason why I'm
I-
asking this
Hold
because
on a
I.
second.
Mhm.
To just clarify, I do not follow any particular religious code, but I do consider myself to be, as you are, ethically Christian, and I'm a deist.
Okay, cool. We're actually on the
Oh.
same page. So here's the thing that I find that's a little bit interesting. Okay, so agnostics and atheists, people who are secularized, no longer believe in like certain forms of religion or whatever. They make a moral calculus, and that moral calculus is that we may only get one life, we may only get one existence, and since we have this little fucking light in the dark that we currently possess and that everybody currently possesses, that light in the dark is sacred. And to take that light away from somebody else is it is sacrosanct. It is something that should only be done in the most extreme of circumstances because we don't know whether or not we get a second light. We don't know whether or not we get a second life or an afterlife or anything like that. So that's why this life is given such heavy weight. But my counter proposal is that basically, like, while that's true, damn, this gets like really fucking deep really fucking fast. But basically, it's like, while that's true, that level of consideration is not given at the natural level. Things live, things die, they move, that like all that kind of shit. So while we can be more human, more moral, more ethical, all that kind of stuff, at some point we have to start making judgments. And as somebody who's lived worked in the security service specifically, I had to make very specific moral calculations about when it was okay to kill human beings. And I also had to know that me not killing the human being could result in greater damage to life, liberty, property than if I just didn't pull the trigger. So this is like a very important moral calculus about good and evil, life and death, the weight of the mortal soul, and all that kind of shit. And with that, I'll yield.
To kind of counter that point, once a person is behind bars, their ability to do harm to society in general is greatly diminished. They might be able to kill people in prison, but these are already people that have been deemed by society to have, been beyond the pale for whatever reason. And so if to counter your point, this isn't my personal opinion, but if they murdered somebody in prison, then oh well.
Yeah,
like
less of a moral consequence.
Yeah, it's less of a moral consequence to that. So I don't don't feel that counters anything that I have personally said. With that said, it is not to Tiberius's point. Is it Tiberius? Did I remember your name? Okay, cool. To Tiberius's point, personally, the reason that I believe in not retribution, rehabilitation is because once a person has been rehabilitated, then they can become a productive member to society and continue to make atone and amends for the crimes that they have committed. Once you have eliminated that person from society, either in any kind of way that people want to deem being eliminated by, that is no longer possible, and therefore we don't get their productive capacity. We as a society do not get access to their productive capacity. And
Sure.
with that, I yield my time.
And
All
I
right.
think your time is about done, right?
Yes.
9:10. So can we give
About
him?
another
I'm
5
gonna
minutes.
give him a round of applause in chat. Thank you so much, Cypher. And the three of you will go ahead and take it home. We'll send it and let it go. You have a lot of response from chat, and we ask people to hang around so that chat can meet you.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll chill for a little bit. Yeah.
Absolutely, because this thing isn't quite over. I don't see where the KO happened. But Cypher, thank you so much.
No, thank you. I will stick around for another 5 minutes. And,
Okay.
everybody else can speak.
VOD will be here.
Got him
The
addicted.
VOD will be saved up. Grab it on my stream. You'll have the whole thing, and you'll have all the results. Okay. So, opposition Socrates. It's just you now.
Do it. Do we have some? Are there? So I have some responses, but I'm curious if there's any burning questions from the chat as well. Just
Well, you haven't finished your debate. Go ahead and finish your attack.
Okay.
Now Tiberius is. stepping in to fill the slot, Socrates. It's you
So-
and them.
So I guess this is going to be mostly more toward counter, because this is the idea that counter generated. But with these death panels, if it turns out that the opposed to death people basically just always say, well, this was horrible. I think I'm pretty convinced that he did it, but I'm opposed to the death penalty, and that's just how every one of these goes. Is that an acceptable situation?
Sure.
Personally.
Yeah, of course. Like this is the thing that I really hate. I'll try to be brief so I don't suck up all the time. One of the things that really bugs me about discourse right now is that we don't accept that there's different kinds of people temperamentally than us. So I like to describe myself as temperamentally liberal, but raised conservative. So I have the shoot him in the back of the head mentality because I live with a whole bunch of shoot him in the back of the head kind of people. But that being said, I share a society with people like you, and I think that that's a good thing. I think we're both temperamentally needed. So if the people say, "Hey, listen, we get it. It's fucked up. This guy's a piece of shit. I kind of hate him myself, but this is wrong." Okay, we this is the system that we signed up for. We wanted a diversity of opinions. We wanted it to be unanimous, and you guys aren't cool with it, so fuck it.
And then just kind of, I don't know if this is maybe more of a comment than a question, but just personally, I think if I were to be selected as a moral and knowledgeable and high IQ individual for a panel like this, I don't think I could ever answer the question of could this person be rehabilitated with a no. I'm not sure scientifically, philosophically, just logically that I could ever answer that. Certainly not by. I'm kind of assuming that was more of a meme, but going into Tsarnaev's cell and saying, "Hey, you fucking did this shit. You know, are you gonna try to at least talk to a psychologist?" Whatever they say no, and that's the point at which I say, well, give it 6 months, whatever, you're a goner. I don't think that would ever be. I kind of assumed that was more.
I hate to project my personal perspective onto you. I know people are different, but like I said, I was raised temperamentally liberal. I think environment can affect our world outlooks a lot. And basically, the thing is, talking about it in like in an ideological, abstracted view, I think it's okay to make moral judgments from that framework. But also, I think it's a little bit different when you either like meet with victims or see the photos of the dead bodies yourself. You actually see like the damage and the damage to families and all that kind of stuff. There is, you might be an enlightened angel who's beyond fucking human like monkey brain bullshit, but I have a bet that you have a fucking monkey brain down in there, and I can probably.
I know I do.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is like, we should listen to our better angels and push for them, but there's a reason why we do what we do, and we may not be able to explain it. And I'm pretty sure your monkey brain is a little bit more powerful than maybe you give it credit for.
Okay, what I'd like you all to do is give your strongest closing arguments. You are well within the time, and then if you'd please hang around. Chat wants to meet you and they want to talk with you, so they may jump into Discord and you can have just a discussion together if you would like. So
I'm gonna
if-
debate chat.
I'll hang out.
is it-
I'll hang out till 10:30 my time. So
Okay.
15 to 20 more
Okay.
minutes.
I go first. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk
Yep,
over.
these are
first.
your closing arguments for your debate, and then we'll let you know what the outcomes were, and if you can hang around, they'd like to talk with you. So
Yeah, CSP, if you want to go.
Okay. Thank you very much. First of all,
Thank
let me
you.
thank Universal Discourse again for hosting these debates. These debates are great. They are very informative and on a ton of people that are very knowledgeable to that. So I want to thank Universal Discourse in the chat for hosting me again, because this is always a good time. So in order to wrap this up, it is this counselor's opinion that the opposition has made a very strong case to why the death penalty should not be allowed, federalized or otherwise. And it is of this counselor's opinion that the proposition has also made such a case as well through numerous concessions about what they deem to be a perfect way to implement the death penalty. These things include beyond a shadow of a doubt, where the person is known to be a killer, but also leaving the ability for the person to try to make amends and avoid the death penalty that way. However, the opposition, at least this counselor in the opposition, believes that people that aren't able to make amends for whatever reasons should be considered to be deemed mentally incapacitated for a degree, and therefore would rise to cruel and unusual punishment. If this counselor believes if you agree with that position, then you should agree with the opposition. And with that, I yield my time.
Thank you.
I would agree. Sorry. Is that the order going?
Socrates, you'll give your closing argument.
Okay. I think there's something that Cypher just outlined, which is that the concessions made by the proposition push what they have described as an acceptable form of the death penalty that seems like it could be reasonable, could be justified, could be practically carried out to such a degree that it's questionable whether even this should be described as anything like the death penalty that we understand it to be, overlapping all the way from the point to how do you even define medically that someone is both capable of rational thought and human discourse, but this is basically just this would only apply to people just of absolutely undeniably pure evil, which is something that we don't there's no metrics that were ever outlined that would actually determine someone to be this. Just to snap back to reality for a moment, the people who are on death row are regular human people. A lot of them have done very bad things. A huge number of them are literally innocent. They didn't do the crime. A lot of these people were convicted for outwardly racist reasons. A lot of these people were convicted for relatively lower crimes. There are people who were in jail not for capital murder, but for rape. 90% of these people during a span, I think in the 70s to 2000s, maybe 90% of these people were black. The death penalty is not this weird, almost indescribable place where this person is clearly, undeniably, and permanently evil, and therefore their life should be permanently ended. This is nothing more than simple, almost vigilante revenge, where, again, there is no institutional way to solve this other than these very, very, again, specific individuals who would be judging this with very, very specific characteristics that, again, we can't seem to practically produce at any level, not on the Supreme Court level. So it seems hard to imagine how this could ever exist, except other than a thought experiment or a revenge fantasy for some personal vindictive crime.
Tiberius, I would like to go last.
I figured you might. All right, cool. So, my closing arguments will actually be the last points I had on my list to actually cover. Connor spoke of atheism. Well, guess what? I'm actually an atheism on the pro side. Why is that? Well, I don't know if life is really sacred. I don't like these terminologies all that terribly much. I was raised Catholic. I don't know how much of that is actually like pulled onto me because I tossed that away literally by sixth grade and became an atheist by eighth. So, I literally 15 years of atheism coming up on. The conversation, at least for me, is that at least from my moral viewpoint that I thought about rather than just was completely passed on to me, is that you know what? Yeah, I've probably got one shot. 99% sure of that, and I'm pretty sure there ain't, or I'm 100% sure there isn't a God. But when the moral context of that is that basically, in the context of something like a murder, which is something that would be very, very, very extension on how the death penalty is used, is that you have taken away somebody's personal. I don't even like to use the right to life, but you've basically taken away somebody's life. If there is a conviction in regards that you have done this, now granted, we talked about how good the court system is, and I think there is some flaws. So yeah, I can back off on some of these. Is that if you are convicted, is that why should you be treated in a similar manner that is the way that you, or I'm sorry, why should you not be treated in a similar manner that is the person that you killed? That's a serious hang up for me. I don't know how to get around that. But I'm going to actually end the big point with the question is that we've talked a lot about rehabilitation. We've talked about what does it mean to have a rehabilitative state and to reform and atone. I have to ask the question because I can't answer this, and honestly, I don't think you can. How do you atone for a murder? And I end on that.
All right.
Connor.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'll try not to be a dickhole, and I'll try to be respectful of CSP's time. I can't promise. So, all right. So CSP brought up, the perfect system. I'm not talking about a fucking perfect system. I'm talking about federal fucking shoestrings or federal fucking strings that go along with federalization. So basically saying, hey, we're gonna allow you fucking knuckleheads in order to fucking reinstitute the death penalty fucking nationwide. You can opt out if you fucking feel like it, but at the same time, if you're gonna institute the death penalty, here are the strings that we have attached. On top of that, I don't think I made any fucking concessions, or the concessions that I did made. We're talking about an idealized system that is distant from the fucking system that we currently have, because institutions are capable of codification. If we still had the same fucking legal standards that we did in the fucking 19th century, it would be unrecognizable to us now. To act like systems are not capable of reform or institutional change is impossible, that we can't idealize these systems, that we can't raise our bars of fucking, behavior or judgment or anything like that is fucking nuts. Like, I have no idea, like, what if you woke up in the morning and you didn't think systems were capable of improvement, I don't even know why you fucking put your 2 feet on the fucking floor. So I brought up very fucking specific examples. Terrorism, because it's indiscriminate and is specifically killing civilians. Serial killing, because it's repeat offense against random fucking victims. And infanticide, because it's specifically killing the innocent and the defenseless. These are crimes that I think are worthy of fucking review for capital punishment, and that a higher bar of juror, people who don't eat fucking hot dogs from 7-Eleven or fucking Walmart, should make decisions about whether or not fucking capital punishment should be imposed in these fucking sentences. And it can be split fucking 50-50 between people who enjoy, or like who want the death penalty, and people who don't want the fucking death penalty. But the people who don't want the fucking death penalty can say, hey, this isn't egregious enough, we're not going to impose the fucking sentence. Or on top of that, a higher degree of fucking evidentiary threshold, basically being, beyond a shadow of reasonable doubt. We know that fucking Cernayev committed the fucking bombing. We know that Mr. fucking Manson coordinated the fucking serial killing. We know that Anders fucking Breivik fucking slaughtered 70 fucking people, including teenagers and political aspirants inside his own country. We know these things beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and these things are real, and these people deserve capital punishment. All right, so we're 4 assholes on a fucking panel. I believe that fucking smarter people could come up with even better codifications than we have in the past hour. Okay, so smarter people than us can figure this the fuck out. Psychologists, criminologists, fucking all those motherfuckers can all get together in a fucking room and they can talk about how what capital punishment should and shouldn't fucking be. So I'll wrap this up. These definitions can be created by medical professionals. They can be created by psychological professionals. They can be created by criminologists. There are experts that are not in this room right now who can create this. And Socrates said that the rareness with which we encounter undeniably pure evil basically precludes the existence of fucking capital punishment. Fuck that. There is undeniable evil in this world. There are people who do undeniably evil shit. There are people who are not remorseful. There are people who do not have the same moral or mental or emotional calculus that you and I do. Some people are fundamentally broken and they fucking don't give a shit about the fucking impact that they've had on other people. Now, are they rare? Sure, they're rare. But as I've already articulated in this entire argument, capital punishment is not the rule. It is the exception. It is held specifically for exceptional individuals who created exceptional crimes that are exceptionally egregious, and on top of that, they're exceptionally unremorseful about their commission of those crimes. Final point. Fucking my mom, who is a fantastic person, said that she hoped that hell was locked from the inside. What she means by that is that people who are sinners or pieces of shit or liars or murderers or rapists or whatever, she hopes that they can seek God's forgiveness and that as a result, they can fucking gain access to fucking heaven. I don't know if I believe any of that shit, but I think it's a beautiful fucking notion, and I think that's how society should be structured. So, if there is somebody who committed a heinous crime, but they're genuinely remorseful, they don't fucking want to do it ever again, they want to become a positive example for society in order to encourage people to never commit the acts of violence that they did, then I'm okay with that person being given their life in order to redeem themselves. However, if that person is unremorseful, I literally would make it a 50-50 shot within the first fucking 6 months. Hey, Sarnaev, you want to fucking go talk to a psychologist or you want us to fucking stick some heroin in your arm? If he says, give me the heroin, then I'm like, all right, bud, bye. Yield.
Yield. Okay, Chosen, thank you. We have about 1 more minute for chats voting. We're gonna tally this, which is literally 60 seconds.
Well, chat. Oh, sorry, I thought you were done.
And Cypher, if you want to hang for exactly 60 seconds, but I know you have to go. Thanks for hanging.
Yeah.
There's
So,
a difference in the tallies, so go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not meaning to interrupt you constantly.
No,
So, chat, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I might be back after I walk my dog. We'll see. But thank you again.
Oh, please bring your wife and the dog. Oh, lovely. Thank you. I think we have a lag, which is why I keep cutting in. But anyway, good luck and have fun.
See you, bud.
Likewise. Enjoyable. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
We'll give it just a little bit so the judge and the moderator's tallies are matching. I know, it's so exciting. Okay. Chat, you may also nominate your favorite speaker for best of show. Just because it feels nice to be complimented. All right, we got a vote. We got one vote. Okay, the debate, Grand Prix, c'est fini, le fin. It has concluded. Thank you, chat. Okay, let's say who, best in show. Socrates has 2 votes. CSP for rhetoric and core. However, both teams had great style. Favorite debater, Socrates, 3. The final score, CSP, Josen, has 2. The final score in chat, your audience, 2 for proposition, 4 for opposition. Which means the audience is favoring not to federalize the death penalty, despite the strength of the arguments. And this part, which no one does, judges vote. Most people don't care, however. Judges vote. Very difficult. Socrates, who has to be trained, and now I'm going, I don't know why, because you clearly, figured it out. Designated down. Okay, 3 for pro, 4 for con. Still, con takes it. Socrates and counterpoints. Counterpoints, perfectly structured arguments. Anecdotes. Respect for the rules. Conviction. No mistakes. Some weaknesses in the argument. All of it made up for by simply holding on to his goalpost and not once letting it go. He became the core, the gravitas. Nearly every inquiry was directed to him, which meant that he did not have to attack opposition, which meant opposition never got a chance to attack him, and so opposition does not win the judges' vote. Proposition does, with extremely well-crafted argument with conviction, no ad hominems, but yet the hot dog at Walmart, funny as fuck. passion, fire, everything else there. The judges' vote is going to have to go to the proposition team. Favorite debater is favorite debater. I liked the way Socrates was able to go toe to toe. And you didn't drop the ball.
Killers.
But Counterpoints conviction is what it's all personal. I admire that. I haven't seen that in a very long time. My favorite is going to be Counterpoints, who I invited in just to hear what he had to say. I knew I would not be disappointed. The proposition wins. Counterpoint has my vote. Socrates, you have 3 votes. Cypher has 2. Tiberius kind of sat back and didn't really get too much in, but when he did, it added to it, and that's really all you got to do. I asked to sit and have a balanced debate, and you gave me more than so. I all I want to do is hope that you come back and let's get even more intense and do more and more. I knew this would be worth waiting for. Okay, so final thing. The chat would like to meet some of you if you can hang around. The judges vote. Proposition. Counterpoints and Tiberius D have won this debate conclusively. However, the audience still went with the opposition. And you all have some new fans. So I can't thank you enough for all the time and the time you hung in there. It was difficult to schedule. You did it. I hope that you keep coming back, that you suggest things that I would love to host for you to try to keep it this level. I know it gets bloody. Let it get bloody, but let it be fair. All right. That's all I asked for, was a fair fight.
No, this
So
was.
I have enjoyed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know when or if I should talk, but this was fucking killer. Like killer. Like this is probably one of my favorite arguments so far because
Wow.
rather than screaming over each other, ad hominems, fucking bullshit, like all that kind of stuff, it was literally about the logics of the point. And I'll just admit this now: debate's over, right? Yeah.
It is now. Very, very well done. Well done.
Okay.
Fair
Okay.
play.
So since the debate's over, and fucking Socrates was like, "Hey, well, what if these people just fucking vote against the death penalty every fucking time?" Then I was like, "Well, that's a fucking waste of time. Then let's not even do this shit." So in the back of my head, like I still want. I want to so basically, like I want a society. I am not morally opposed to violence. I'm not. I think there are limited applications in which violence is appropriate. And I want a society that is educated on violence, but I would rather most people are more temperamentally or politically like Socrates. That's what I would prefer. And I would like the attitude that I have to be more rare. That way, if things go sideways, you can rely on the violence, but if everything's going fine, then you're more reliant on people like Socrates. So that's, that's what I kind of found beautiful and felt a inkling of instinct to concede.
I sense that, but I really liked what was, and I have my own takes, and from an indigenous perspective, that's a whole different kind of debate. But what I didn't expect was it's the last resort. Rehabilitate them. If you can't, then they got to go. I actually didn't expect to hear that. And I went, you know what? That's compelling. When it's laid out with that much rationale behind it, that's very difficult to debate something like it's very hard.
Well,
Because after all, it's your daughter that dog may come for next. It's very difficult. This debate could have gotten very, very ugly. Y'all didn't go there. You could have, and you didn't. You should. If you sit again, go ahead and go there. This is anecdotes matter in court. An anecdote is an eyewitness testimony. It's impossible to refute. It's the hardest thing to deal with. So bring anecdote Annie here.
Yeah.
But that was I was starting to go, he's got a point. And I went, oh, you're
I was feeling
convincing me. You're
I was
convincing
like,
me.
okay.
Good.
I mean, if you could be sure that they like were pure evil and that they had done it and they could never ever do anything good ever again in their life, like maybe it's not. I don't know. Like it's hard to.
There's this
like
calculus
reaching a level
though.
where it's like, okay,
I
I
appreciate.
really have to think about this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your appeal to pragmatism because like I've been a part of institutions and I know how flawed institutions are. So even if like you and me and like fucking 8 other brainiacs sat in a room for 6 months and we came up with the perfect capital punishment system that would even override all of the objections of anybody who was like strictly pro-life in a capital punishment setting, like even then I understand that institution would be run by flawed people. But at the same time, like
Exactly.
so for instance, like in the scenario in which somebody committed a grievous crime and it basically affected and destroyed dozens of lives, my duty, at least like my personal duty, the way I judge my morality or my soul, my duty is not to that lost or wayward soul. It isn't. It's to the society that's been destroyed. It's to the destroyed families. It's to the victims. It's to them. So if I have somebody who's unrepentant, you can give them a decade to repent if you want. You can invest all the fucking social investments that you want to. I don't give a fuck. And like that's like a personal moral judgment. So if I walked into, I keep bringing up Sarnaev, but that's because he killed a kid. So if I walked into Doshkar Sarnaev's cell and I said like, hey, do you want to go see the therapist or do you just want to get this over with? If he's like, get this over with, then I'd be like, all right, let's go. Like, and that's just because I'm not, if you're not seeking redemption, that's like the whole thing about the Christian ethic of forgiveness. The Christian ethic of forgiveness involves atonement. You're not just forgiven if you commit a sin and then you don't atone. You have to recognize that you sinned. You have to atone. You have to seek forgiveness and redemption. And if you don't do that, then you're not worthy of redemption or forgiveness. And that's I still think that's a correct moral judgment.
I have
God damn it. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to jump in here because I haven't jumped in here all night, so I'm going to get at least feisty in the after panel, right? So I had, when I got invited to this and like I was just like, hey, death penalty conversation, cool. And then I got the list. I'm like, all right, cool. Connor and Socrates, Kobe and me. Right. So I'm thinking, all right, Connor and Socrates are heavy hitters. They'll fucking just have at it. Kobe's a lot more like off the cuff, like very, I don't know how to put it, very conversational. I love talking to Kobe. And so whenever I saw the list, I'm like, all right, cool. It'll be you two versus us two, and it'll be good. And then I don't know who CSP is, but he came in and I'm just like, oh no, I'm going to get fucking wrecked, which pretty much happened, right? So
you didn't get wrecked, but you conceded a lot of ground that you didn't need to.
No. Look, here's the thing. Look, you argued on behalf of your beliefs and what you actually go for. I went on mine. I concede that. Look, you know what? Is there discrimination cases in the past? Absolutely, right? Is there serious problems with the flawed ability of the people to remember shit, pass judgment upon others? Absolutely. Which is why I'm so restrictive on how we use it. Like, you know what? I'm completely fine if you say, look, a standard or just a given one homicide, you can't kill somebody for. I'm 100% okay with that. And if it came to the actual vote, I would say, you know what? I didn't know we were going to do that. But hey, you know what? I'm cool with saying, you know what? You opt into the system. You don't opt out. I'm fine with that notion. So, whatever. When it comes to actually the thing, I just want, or I'm sorry, I either I'm just immoral or whatever. You can pass your own judgments on me, whatever. Is that I want that option to be there for something. I don't really care what the hell what qualifications exactly you want to put in there. But you know what? When I hear about somebody committing some kind of terrorist attack, or just hey, they took a kid by the legs and beat the brains in against a wall, I might want to just have the option. Because, oh, yeah, they had a fit of passion where they killed somebody. I'm about to have a fit of passion to kill them back. So, look, we can appeal to better angels here. We can be like, hey, look, you know what? You're clearly in a state that you cannot handle this. It's obviously why we will never put, a plaintiff on the jury. I think this the right word. You know, you're never gonna say, look, yes, he killed my daughter, I want him dead. But you know, that's kind of the beauty of the system, is that others are there to pass judgment in your stead, and hopefully they have better judgment than you in your current state or what have you. And I think there's something wonderful about that. However, obviously that is open to the problems of people, right? We've had a discriminatory and racist past. Hopefully we're getting, you know, further away from that. I don't know yet. There's some things that scare the shit out of me, but it's a completely legitimate concern from the opposition, and one that I fully give credentials to. On the other side of the note is there people out there that I just literally like stroke whenever somebody tells me they couldn't be killed, or like we should absolutely get rid of it, like Osama bin Laden. Is anyone actually going to object to killing this piece of shit? Please tell me yes, or please tell me no.
Not
right?
me.
It's just, yeah, it's just
Well,
like
and
there's
actually, you brought up a really interesting point. So this is actually something that kind of bugs me a little bit, but I'm okay with it. So Socrates brought up this like moral judgment of like are people being or are they capable of being rehabilitated on a long enough timeline? Like war is predicated on an instantaneous like war, conflict, and violence, even law enforcement violence is predicated on an instantaneous moral judgment that takes no other timeline except for the present into account. So that person has a gun, they're about to kill me. I have to make an action about whether or not I live or die right now. I have to kill that person. Yep. Now, on a long enough timeline, could you sit down with that person, drink chai, and, you know, just be like, hey, you know, what's up with your religion? What's up with this jihadism thing? You know, like, I'm from America. I know, like, I like strippers and I like alcohol, and I know that makes me a piece of shit, but, like, could we, like, hang out and play some Xbox and, you know, talk shit about the world, and maybe we could figure this out? Like, on a long enough timeline, like, I think peace is perfectly possible between almost any person of good faith. But at the same time, when you have two dudes with, you know, one dude with an AK, one dude with an, you know, a M4 or whatever, you got to make a decision then, because they've already committed to a series of moral judgments. Now, understand that's not perfectly analogous to the justice system, because like the incident has already happened and we're making a judgment in the post fact when we have time, when we can make judgments. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to extend out indefinitely the value of a human life, because I don't think that human lives have an infinite value. I think they have a limited value. We can judge it, and we judge that based off of like morality, spirituality, reciprocity, social norms, and all that kind of shit. So.
One in the waiting room.
Yeah, I think.
Yep.
I think
one in the waiting room. Sorry. Hey, they really like you guys, and I've never seen him come in. Thank you, chat, for coming. Ali was the first person I met on Twitch, and I have mega respect for Ali. Love Ali. I do. So there are some other questions. There's somebody in chat who can't get into here. You know, Scud Marks, great name. Does Connor have time to answer my question about the practical distinction between beyond a reasonable doubt and beyond a shadow of doubt?
Yes.
What is the practical? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, shadow of a doubt is not a legal term, but I'm using it. So, basically, beyond a reasonable doubt. There's a few different terms: beyond a reasonable doubt and preponderance of evidence. Preponderance of evidence is used in civil suits, and beyond a reasonable doubt is used in criminal cases. So, preponderance of evidence just means like 51-49. We think this shit happened. Okay. Like beyond a reasonable doubt, there's not like an exact percentage, but it's more like a fucking 90-10 or an 80-20. It's like we have circumstantial evidence, we have corroborating evidence, we have witness testimony, we have people who like we take the totality of the circumstances, and if a criminal basically says, oh well, I have a twin and he looks just like me and I don't have a birth record and he committed the crime, that's not beyond a reasonable doubt, right? Like, it's a doubt. I don't know. Maybe he's got a fucking twin. Maybe he was, born in a different country or some shit like that. But it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. So basically, you have to take the totality of circumstances in order to judge what you think happened, and the evidence has to be strong enough in order to say that term. I'm sure it gets more specific. When I say beyond a shadow of a doubt, CSP is also a fucking killer. Like, CSP is a killer fucking debater too. So I just want to give him props, even if he's not here. He's right that like witness testimony is often unreliable. Sometimes the physical evidence just doesn't exist. Sometimes there's not like sufficient witnesses or whatever. But when you corroborate digital forensics, physical evidence like fingerprints, DNA evidence like physical, just DNA off of the body or off of the bomb or whatever, confessions and all that kind of shit, you can get to a level where you know that motherfucker did it. And that's like Osama bin Laden, Daskar Sarnaev, Charles Manson, Ted Bundy. We know these people fucking did it. So if we know that, let's make a moral judgment about whether or not they should still live.
Yeah,
That
this
answer.
is so, sorry. Just this is so interesting because I was talking to Universal Discourse about this about like this upcoming debate. I got the time zones mixed up and showed up like an hour early to pre-prepare. But they're talking about how to prepare for this and saying something about how people would come in, you prepare, but people are going to come up with something that throws you totally off your game. And I had so much prepared for arguing about how it would cost more money to kill people and it would reduce crime, because I thought those would be very contentious points, and those were just immediately thrown out as, okay, maybe, yeah, sounds good. But I don't care about that part. My argument has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, doesn't that suck?
And that was
That's a legitimate straw man.
Well,
it's legitimate straw man. It's like, yeah, and so moving on.
Yeah.
Legitimate. And I was telling Socrates, I was like, get ready, the best laid plans. And you'll sit here and somebody will just swipe left and you're like, fuck. So get on your game.
Well, it's
Out of curiosity.
Well, the truth. Sorry for interrupting, Ty, but that's a great thing about like arguing from truth, arguing from reality, is you don't have to make shit up. You don't have to fucking tie things that are bullshit together. You don't have to. I'm trying to think of what else, but like you don't have to maintain a position that's no longer tenable. So that's where it's like, oh, well, technically we could just shoot him with a fucking, like a fucking 50-cent fucking bullet in the back of the head. And you're like, all right, well, there's administrative costs. It's not even the cost of the fucking bullet. That's the problem. And it's like, oh, well, if I stuck with that argument, I'd be completely fucked. But that's also accepting his framing that financing is part of the problem. And that's where like, you have to look at the totality of the argument to see if it's even being framed properly. Like Socrates, I'm not saying that you were being sneaky. But some of this,
I just thought that was going to be a big argument.
Yeah. But
that's the usual discourse. This is super refreshing that it wasn't about straw men.
Yeah. Well, but even
it's hard, but it's refreshing.
Well, even your framing for some of it though, like, hey, here's like the 8 bullet points that I see as problems, and I had to be like, I don't even see those motherfuckers as problems. And like what I could have done if I was like a more defensive debater or whatever, is I could have just conceded that your shit, like your perspectives were problems in the first place, and then basically had to fight your problems. You know what I'm saying? But that's like
I got no points for concessions. I'm like, all right, hey, cost, hey, cool, I'll fuck that shit. Like, it's just like, hey, is it deterrence? I don't believe it is. So congratulations. Here's a couple points. I'll give you that. That's a legitimate criticism. Like, one of the biggest things I actually have serious issues with is the fact that people like don't address legitimate criticisms. They always just like line train the shit. Now, I'm 100% where like Connor didn't give any ground, and I don't know if you would have given ground or you wanted to or could have, but it's just like, I have so many problems in debates where no one says, you know what, that point is strong or that point has merit or whatever. It just never fucking happens. It drives me crazy.
They don't know how to make the concession properly. That's why I'm trying to train people.
Just say, hey, look, you're right, dude. Right. Like, you're right. Or, you know what? That has a lot of weight, and I can't walk away from that argument. Like, you probably had me on that, at least that point. Fucking people need to do that. By the way, out of curiosity, chat, if you have any geopolitical questions, so I don't come off as the dumbest person here, feel free to hit me up.
No, but Tiberius, don't.
Being very, what do you call, humble. He's not at all.
No, I'm not. Don't get me
Um,
wrong. I don't think I'm a stupid person. I'm a manager, but I'm not well versed in legalism. I wish I was better. It's something it's on the to-do list, and I'm not the best moral arguer. And especially considering my ethics and moral framework has changed quite a bit in the last while. I mean, I used to be a leftist 5 years ago. Now I'm a conservative. What the hell? I mean,
The hell that, man.
huh? How's that going? It's going great. I feel far more at home. I've got some
right?
priorities.
Welcome on Twitch
I'm
Politics.
calm.
I'm just like, hey, I'm like, hey, look, yeah, I'm feeling far more at home. Like, hey, you know what? Look, I can go full tilt. I can go full tilt on this one. My biggest problem with my
Go
focus,
full tilt.
yeah. I
Wait,
can go,
wait. Let me just. I'm still laughing. Give me 1 minute. That one got me. Oh shit. Hold on. Before you go further, we have a ton of issues, panels, and debates, and you're all in. I would like to add you all to our Google Sheet and stay in touch. And I'm sure we can find something that you're going to be brilliant at and can shine at. So you're all officially invited to whatever we host that you want to be a part of.
How do I
And I'll
pronounce your
give a
name?
week or two. So go ahead with it now that I've quit. You know,
No,
my nose is
how
stuck
do
on
you
it.
pronounce your name? I'm asking.
Whose name?
Your name.
Universal Discourse?
Yeah, but like locally, or is that something completely unrelated?
No, Locali Nation is a civil service organization. I work with UNESCO under United Nations.
Okay. Okay. So
My name is. You can't pronounce it, but I'll type it in chat.
Okay.
Here is
Well,
my name.
I
Hold on.
speak French, so don't underestimate me.
Oh, then pronounce that for us.
I can't see chat.
Lord,
I
Oh.
got you. I'll send it to you.
Chris, Al. That's a drink.
Yes, no, it's a city. It's also a port. Both of them are.
Mm-hmm.
You say this is.
It's not like
wait, it's
Marseille
French.
or something.
Yep, Marseille.
Lord Chris, Al.
Oh, it was Marseille?
Lord
Oh, Lord.
Kurtzau.
Wait, hold on. You put the accent on it. I don't know. Oh no, that's my screen.
Walking around with English-speaking people
Lourd
being named
Curaçao?
Lord is not a good idea. So
yeah. So Lourd Curaçao?
yeah, that's it. That's it. Well, you got très bien.
Merci.
Bien. Ça va, c'est bien, bien.
Je tiens un voisin who s'appelle who s'appelle Alain. So I have a neighbor who's named Alain, but like like it's like, hey, what's up, Alan?
Alain.
Yeah. So anyways.
Alain.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Anyway, that was a nice little divergent thing.
No,
into
but I
nowhere
just
land.
wanted to say this structure like Ty, I'm not saying like everything has to be like this, but I just fucking love this because it's like it cuts through so much bullshit. Everybody talking over everybody, waiting your fucking turn with 9 other fucking assholes. People fucking ignoring your points, blowing past them, having to write down 10 fucking points and having 2 minutes in order to respond to 20 things that are all fucking stupid. Like I love it because like I love the game. Like I love the game for the game's sake. But actually,
sure, it's fun.
Yeah, but
the worst part about Twitch Politics is 8-person panels. There's just too many goddamn people.
Yeah.
Did we lose counterpoints, or is it just the video camera went off?
He just turned it off. He's doing something.
Yeah, no. I just have a.
Oh, good. I hope he doesn't leave. I waited so long to actually get to listen to. I'm serious. I waited months.
No. I'm still here.
I can't tell because our mics are. I think we have lag. I'm sorry.
No,
anyway, go ahead.
I was gonna say I can chill for about another 10, but like my neck is fucked up. So after like 2 or 3 hours of like getting dehydrated by all my fucking studio lights or whatever, like I normally have to shut down.
Oh. Then let me give you the last 10 minutes since I waited.
Well, we're definitely going to do this again, but
chat waited. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope so. So let's let you say whatever you'd like to say in your parting 10 minutes.
Oh, I don't need a full 10 minutes. I'll just do I'll do an outro, and then if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. So basically, like my name is Connor. I do run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints, where we just broke 3K. I've been doing it about a year. and it's been fun and kind of explosive and weird. And I've done debates with some of the people that you love and some of the people that you hate. Mike from PA, Vosh, Destiny, fucking all the big dudes, RGR, Joe Lewis. So anyways, like I love conversation. I love politics. I was raised as a conservative, but I'm temperamentally liberal. The one thing, like, I fucking hate liberals though, and I hate, leftists. So even though I'm like very sympathetic to a lot of like leftist and liberal and progressive agenda, it's like worst people could not have better ideas. It's very frustrating. So like, I hope I'm joining the left by saying that all lefties hate all other lefties too. So but,
that makes you a true lefty.
yeah, exactly. So like, but I care about things. So for instance, like conservatives will often like couch anti-human bigotry and prejudice and like fiscal conservatism, or they'll couch like some level of like social bigotry in like homophobia or anti-trans or anti-black, anti-Hispanic. They'll couch all that shit in like cultural issues or economic issues. I want people to do well. I like all people. So the things that I care about are the actual ideals, not the bullshit talking points. I'm a Republican. I'll stop this rant in a second. I know I love my rants. But I'm a Republican because I care about a republic. I'm a capitalist because I think pragmatically it's the system that's proven to work, but I'm open to a better system eventually existing. I'm pro-gun because I believe in the balance of power between civilians and their governments that rule them. So these things I actually care about, but ideally I want all humans to do well. So that's my rant.
I just appreciate you that you had no idea who I was and yet responded in nothing but good faith, was very patient. And it's difficult because he's only on Twitter and I'm all on Discord. And I knew you were worth waiting for. So like I said, I'd like to add you to the coup list if you want. You email, I think you already did, emailed me, right? Yeah. You'll get the Google, just check the Google sheet. And you'll see it all up there, or let me know. And we change our topics frequently, but I'm used to Supreme Court, United Nations shit. I like the intense, all the way down deep, dark, with a massive call to action. I like people to be absolute conviction, and they care about the craft of arguing, and they want it air, and that's you've done nothing but that. So I'm just very, very happy that you agreed to come on, and everybody waited for so long to meet you. So I just can't thank you enough. That's all I can say.
No, I wanna shout out everybody here basically. Like I'm kind of sad that CSP had to dip early because he's a fucking killer.
He's such a good guy.
Yeah, and then Socrates too, just fucking killer. Like it's fucking hard. And then Tiberius is my boy. So his Twitch panel is, I would say, a little bit more like fucking 9 dudes getting into a circle and fucking talking shit, which is actually like it's cathartic. It's good for your soul. To get amongst people who like kind of disagree with each other and just kind of shoot the shit and all that kind of stuff. So if you're not following Tiberius, follow Tiberius. But goddamn, like I'll say it one more time. This structure is so much better, and it really like as an arguer, as a debater, somebody who likes to debate ideas or whatever. It's so good to have it organized, to not be talking shit, to not have the ad hominems, to not fucking like all that shit. Because I feel like I understood Socrates' point, and I feel like I understood CSP, and we just fundamentally disagreed, which is different from you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, and not only do you not know what I'm talking about, you think I'm an asshole for reasons that you can't even articulate.
It's different. It can be bloody, and it needs to be. Some of the debates that I'm used to make changes that are permanent, they end up as referendums that create laws, and it's no joke. And your whole democracy is the cornerstone of it is debate. That's how serious it is.
Well, let me know if you can
Um,
find me a job making 70K plus arguing professionally, and I'll move wherever you
I
need me to
used to,
move.
well, I used to make that teaching this. I mean, it is possible, but you'd have to train to do it. So don't laugh at it. I mean, that's my whole half of my career.
Yeah. No, and
If you get really good, I'll write you a job reference. How about that?
All right, thanks.
Fair enough. Okay.
Oh shit.
So, yeah. So I'm glad. I'm still tweaking this for Twitch.
Mhm.
And the idea, yeah, it still has to be entertaining. Let's face it. You want people watching you do this, don't you? I mean, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
I do it
Um,
entirely because I had fun. I literally killed my community because I was just like, you know what? I don't like you fuckers, and I'm pissed off a week later because of some bullshit you said.
Mhm.
Like I
oh
literally,
yeah.
I no, unironically, I took what is it, an eighth of my income off the board because it was just like, look, yeah, sure, I'm getting money out of it. I got to $300 a month, but it was literally, I'm like, I am literally pissed off days later because of conversations that I have, and it's just like, I killed it,
Ooh.
and now I've killed it, and now I'm back to I've been done for like 2 weeks, except for just like the random panel that I throw out, or we still do the right wing panel just because I seem to get along with those people for some freaking reason. Couldn't tell you why. But anyway, I have been getting comments for the last 3 days just about how much I am like how much more calm I am. And then today I was actually kind of spicy because I just didn't sleep well and shit, and I took a big old nap
Right.
before or after I got home from work. But they're like, hey, why are you upset? I'm just like, look, I didn't sleep well. That's cool, but that never happens because they're usually I've been so pissed off for so long. They're just like, oh, Ty's an asshole, and now it's
Oh.
like they're getting to the point where, oh hey, Ty's actually kind of cooled this shit out. So yeah, like this stuff is toxic, and it's like there's people that I really like, and there's people I have hard respect for. Socrates being one of them. How do you not have more of a falling dude? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, no, dude,
I
you're
I don't stream super consistently. It's
true. I mean,
probably
I
a
get
part of it.
that.
This is not even a side gig as much as just purely a passion for me at this point. I just do it because
Right.
it's so wonderful, and there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here, man. It's just like, I mean, it was nice that I was making money off it, but if I ain't enjoying this, fuck this shit. And so I've changed the stuff. It's just like, look, I'm vetting the fuck out of my panels before I go on to one. I host the panels that I
I
want with
know.
the people I want on it, and it's just I switched over to doing my podcast more on Twitch, and I just do the live recording show there and use the community to get that involved. So guess what? I'm a geopolitical forecaster now on Twitch. I'd still make money at it. It's not as much, but you know what? I enjoy that a lot more. And if you guys want to talk about how Germany's fucked in 10 years, I'm totally on board for doing that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we're gonna co-host some of that, but then also if you could come on to my stream and do a kind of a like I don't know a presentation on something like that, I would love to hear that myself. Um,
Well,
definitely. And you
you
do vet people. I noticed when I kind of put my invites out there, I was like, oh shit, nobody knows me. And it was just like you could see people being very cautious. Who's going to be on that? Are you sure? Well, wait a minute. Do I know? I don't know. And I went, oh,
I know there's
I said, I'm gonna make sure that see we have these good. This is how we are here. But I'm like, I want to make sure that this is a good experience because I kind of felt like somehow you guys over there got beat up or something, and you were very like nice and receptive and really reluctant. And I went, what happened? How did maybe I shouldn't ask, but then I understand. That's right. You did blow up your whole chat. I remember that went all over. That went all over Twitch. It was like he killed his chat. I said, "We're good. It's his house, his rules." Did they shit on the couch? Put their feet up on the?
there's so many people pissed off.
Yeah.
It
And
got toxic for how did it get toxic? Is that what happened? That's
no,
what I heard.
no. The problem is, well, the toxicity really came as I started fucking eating people. And that's where it really
Oh,
got bad. But
you
what happened?
booted him?
What happened was look, my community wasn't uber toxic by any stretch of the imagination. It was my liking of the community itself. because for a while it was like, all right, hey, I set out with a mission. I wanted anyone who really wanted to come on from like left to right could come onto the show and engage and be part of that. And it took a long time. I literally was on here for a year and like 8 months or some shit, or 6 months, and I never got over 120 followers and like 3-5 viewers in a show. COVID happened. I got a webcam. We changed up a few things, and all of a sudden, I networked a bit. And all of a sudden, I took off. I had 1,000
did.
followers by the end of the year.
You
Um,
did.
and I had
Wow.
a huge community. I had people. I was really, really selective about who I kicked out, like, because it was just like pretty much you had a unanimous consent or whatever, or you had to be blatantly just being a racist or whatever. Where mine was like, all right, well, you have to go.
Mhm.
But I had fucking.
Hey
like,
Ty, can I
one-
interrupt just really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was just gonna say I got a jet. But this was awesome.
Oh,
I'll definitely do it again. And then also, if your chat or community or whatever wants to do like a Q&A or something like that, I'm super happy to do something in the future as well. So
well, you're on the team, right? So 100%, 100%. We can't wait to see you again. We had I thought everybody had already gone. Thank you. I can't just say thank you all the time, but I don't care. Thank you anyway.
no, it was awesome. I appreciate you guys.
I was holding my breath the whole time. I was so like, God, this is getting really good. Jeez.
Well,
that's Connor for you.
well, I look forward to the next fight. I wish you guys well. You have an excellent evening, and I'll catch both of y'all soon.
I'll see you.
Much
Saturday.
respect.
All right.
You have a great night.
Yep. Bye, guys.